There's no time.
Lost. Times. Darkness. Tears.
The time is
13
o'clock.
Hey everybody! Episode 196. Tom's been waiting for this one. He's very excited.
Yeah. We were talking about fucking, the supernatural bodies of bodybuilding. Yeah.
Yeah, he's been bugging me to do this one for a while, so finally we moved it up.
We're going to talk about what's natural, what's not natural, what's supernatural, what's superhuman, and human abilities, and just, about the physical culture. That's what we're going to talk about. And this is actually a very interesting story. It has a lot of interesting fucking crazy characters in this shit.
Yeah,
this is not boring at all. Some people go, I don't want to listen to that gym rat shit. I was kind of like that until I, got a little bit older and started to appreciate more things, you know what I mean? And once I figured out who these dudes were and where all this shit came from, it's quite interesting.
Well, I'm always kind of interested in the history of things that I never really thought about the history of.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like, this seemed like a topic I was just kind of like, yeah, whatever. But, I found myself watching like a 2-hour BBC documentary.
Yeah.
I think that it came out in 2015, so it's 5 years old. And it talked about like the history of bodybuilding from like the earliest days and stuff like that, and went up to the present day, or at least till 2015. And it was actually really interesting. And like they talked, like they interviewed like all the main guys, and talked about this, that, and the other thing. And it was just like a really fascinating, discussion about something that I knew very little about, other than what you talk about sometimes, because you kind of have.
It's a subculture. It's biotechnology, it's philosophy, and it's men just being competitive bitches. You know how they are.
Yeah.
And fucking when you start getting in, when you start going into the history of all these characters, and like I follow a lot of them on YouTube and Instagram, and even fucking listen to what happened to Kitty kicking the light. She kicked the light.
And then she ran off.
She's like,
yeah.
And then, characters like Leroy Colbert, he's passed away, but all his videos are still up. And he would tell all these stories about what they would do in the gym back in the 50s, like jerking off for money and fucking doing weird shit and having sex with women that would just walk into back in the 50s, there were women
the good old days, y'all,
that would go to a damn gym to walk in there and have sex with muscle men of all different colors.
Interesting.
Yeah, and there was they would gangbang these fucking groupies. And you wouldn't think that, but that was like in the 50s of LA. There's all kinds of weird shit.
That wasn't on the Wikipedia page.
No. He talks about it. They used to have these weird competitions where they'd all start throwing money on the ground and jerking off, and whoever busted a nut first, they'd be able to get that big pile of money.
See, I've heard that different though, that it's like they jerk off on a cookie in the middle, and whoever's the first or the last, they had to eat it.
That's not what Colbert said. Colbert said it was
no, I know. It's like a different variation of that game.
But they did it. They did it for money, and fucking dudes were practicing to see who could bust a nut the fastest. Because sometimes that pile of money was like over $100, and that would help pay rent.
Yeah.
And so they were trying to get that kitty. And sometimes there were witnesses, like women were watching and shit like that, evidently. It was just weird shit that they did. And
sounds about right.
And it's because of, the weird things that fucking testosterone and fucking performance-enhancing drugs does to the mind, I guess, Although he didn't really mention performance-enhancing drugs until later. I don't know exactly what era this was.
All you need is testosterone. Testosterone is, very dangerous.
And they were young. They were doing that. They were young guys. They were teenagers. So, I believe they were in their late...
That's some shit that teenage dudes
They were in their late teens, from my understanding.
I don't know why, but that seems like a good idea to teenage men everywhere.
I like Leroy's videos. He's just a friendly... He was a friend with Arnold Schwarzenegger, and he claims to have never taken any steroids, and probably didn't. He was a motorcycle rider, lost his damn foot, crushed his foot up, and Joe Weider put him in charge of a bunch of shows. Joe Weider actually kind of adopted him as a son in a way. He was kind of abandoned by his dad.
Yeah.
And so Joe kind of raised him, and he was just this big, friendly evidently really talkative black dude. Leroy.
Really talkative.
Really, yeah, everybody said that, they would just bust on him for talking too much. He used to talk constantly. But he owned little vitamin stores and shit. But, watch Leroy. Leroy Colbert's a trip. All his videos are still up there. He died a few years back. Ended a lot of his videos with a clip of him slamming the door going, "I quit this bitch." And he's like, fucking 70-something years old. The guy's hilarious. "I quit this bitch." And he fucking, like he left leaving his damn vitamin store. Yeah, Leroy. But,
Man, I know that feeling.
yeah. "I quit this bitch." That's how he ended his fucking video.
That's pretty funny.
Yeah, but these are not only, most of these guys are not just big guys, they're big fucking characters. They had personalities and egos to match. That's why they became bodybuilders. Bodybuilders, they are athletes, but it's not really a sport because it's all subjective. You know what I mean? It's just whatever the judges like. That's a damn beauty contest when you think about it.
Yeah, I mean, that's why, that's why there's still, because I think there's been like an ongoing thing where they're trying to get bodybuilding put into the Olympics, but I believe they have not been successful up to this point because people are arguing it's not really a sport. Like you said,
there's no score.
Yeah,
there's no score.
It's more of an aesthetic judgment. It's like a
right.
beauty contest,
Right.
kind of. Maybe even more shallow, I want to say,
Yeah.
than a beauty contest.
Yeah, they don't have to sing or have
because at
anything.
least those women have to like sing or
Yeah.
do comedy or
No.
like and have like interviews and stuff.
No,
these guys just have to stand there and like clench their ass cheeks and stuff.
Yeah. It's just how big are you and fucking how cool do you look and how scared do you look or how handsome you. It's all subjective. It
and
depends.
Symmetry, that's a big thing too. They're very
symmetry.
into symmetry.
It all depends on what the judges like. So, you can't score that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Because it's a subjective.
It's subjective.
Yeah.
So it's more of an art than anything. I think it's very close to hot rodding.
Yeah.
Hot rodding cars doesn't involve crossing finish lines or anything like that. It's just taking your badass car to a show and judges going, "I like that car."
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Look at a big fucking scoop sticking out of the hood. I like the paint job. That's what they're doing. It's just men. And it's very male-oriented. Fuck talent. Fuck being able to talk. Or it's just, what do you look like?
Yeah.
Very visual.
Yeah. Like I said, so in that sense, it's even less like
it's very shallow
substance than the Miss America like all those like beauty pageants. And
but
stuff.
before we start the show, I gotta say that's kind of bullshit.
Yeah.
Because personality was a factor. It's just that they didn't. Like for instance, the greatest bodybuilder of all times is going to be Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yeah.
But there were times when he won competitions when he shouldn't have won them. There were guys that looked better than him. Sometimes.
Well, wasn't there in 1980 there was a big fucking there was a big scandal about
There's
that.
no way he could have won that one. There was guys that looked a lot better than him.
Well, and he wasn't going to enter, and then he entered like the last minute, like the night before or some shit.
Joe had a lot to do with that shit. Joe Weider had a lot to do with that.
They talked about that on that BBC documentary. I think it happened again in 1981, not with Arnold Schwarzenegger, but with somebody else.
Yeah.
And so like a lot of I think like the year after that, like a lot of the bodybuilders wouldn't compete because they were so pissed off about how unfair it was that Arnie had come in and like said, "Oh, I'm not going to compete. I'm not going to compete." "Oh, yeah, I am going to compete." Like the very last possible second, and then he ended up winning.
Yeah, he looked good, but he didn't look.
He did, and I think a lot
good.
of people thought that he shouldn't have won.
Yeah, he shouldn't have won it. There were other guys that looked a lot better in that particular competition. I mean, he hadn't competed, I think, in 2 or 3 years. He just showed back up.
Remember, yeah.
And so really, personality and charisma was a factor. It's just that, you know what I mean? Like, and they didn't. Personality and charisma was a factor. It's just that you couldn't rely on it. Arnie could.
Yeah.
But
well, and I think
behind the scenes mattered. If they didn't like you, you weren't going to win.
Yeah.
So because there were guys that looked good, but they didn't like them.
Yeah.
Behind the scenes, they were dicks. Or, you know what I mean? So they didn't win
Well, it's
anything.
just the same with getting a job or anything like that. It's not always the best person for the job or the person with the most experience. It's the people that they like the most because they're like, well, we're going to have to hang out with this person every day.
Yeah. So popularity was also a part of.
And then you have to think too that Arnold Schwarzenegger and Lou Ferrigno, to a slightly lesser extent, they were kind of the two guys that, because they got so famous, that sort of made bodybuilding more a mainstream type of thing.
That's a lot of the reasons why they won.
Yeah.
Okay, because it's not so much what they did on stage, it's what they did for that entire scene. And Arnold made that a mainstream scene that a housewife would know about.
Yeah.
And that's not the way it was before.
Well, it was a very, like, yeah,
it was a subculture. But he took that shit to the big screen, and it became a household concept of it.
And then, like, they had, like, tons of different, like, competitions, and the prize money went way up, and all this other kind of stuff, too, because, holy crap, what was that?
Yeah, she's running up to the cat.
So I think, like, they had a lot to do with that, like, them getting so famous.
Yeah. So before we start the show, is there anything we have to do here?
I just have one shout out, because we don't have any new patrons or anything like that this week. Boo. And I already shouted him out on one of the sidetrack shows, but like I said, I always like to do it on the main show as well. I'd like to thank our friend Rob Levinson, who sent us yet another movie, and this was one that I was very excited about. This is Sexy Beast. For a UK crime movie, which I think I saw in the theater, if I'm remembering it correctly.
I haven't seen it yet.
It's really, really good.
Okay.
Because he said he sent it because we had talked about how we liked Bronson so much, and he's like, oh, here's another, like, British crime movie. And I had seen it, but you haven't seen it. And I haven't seen it for many years, but yeah, I'm excited to, like, watch it again, because I remember really liking it a lot. I can't remember if it's based on a real story. I thought it was based on a real guy, but I can't remember exactly. But I remember really liking it a lot. But I think that was the only shout out that we had. So we can get into talking about now. When we talk about bodybuilding, I don't know if, like, people that don't know about it, it's like, it's not weightlifting. That's a different thing.
Or
weightlifting is a sport the sense that, you know, how much weight can you lift. It's also not the same thing as, like, shit like the strongman competitions, which is essentially just like, you know, hey, I can lift a car, or I can pull a car with my teeth, or I can pull tractor tires or shit like that.
Although bodybuilders do those.
Right, but
that's
it's
not
different.
The same as saying, like, going to the Olympia. You know what I mean? Mr. Olympia is like a beauty contest, like Mr. America, you know, or Miss Universe.
It's basically you just go, you try to either get as big or symmetrical or whatever, you just pose,
and do all these poses,
and have a posing routine, and then it's just like an aesthetic appreciation. Yeah,
and then, like, one of the things about physical culture or weightlift or bodybuilding culture, if you go online, it used to be in Hollywood a lot, but its popularity waned in recent years. You know, Arnold and those guys, their movies, you know, he got older and the movies started to move on to other things. You know, I think, you know, they were replaced with Keanu Reeves and guys like that. You know what I mean, in terms for action roles. But I forgot what I was gonna say. If you go, a lot of it's moved on to Instagram. That's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
And it's moved on into YouTube, and guys coaching and making YouTube videos of them at the gym, and them, you know what I mean? They're still making money. They just do it in a different way. All right. Well, if you look in the comment sections, one of the big things going on is, like, is this dude natural or is he enhanced? You know, has he been taking steroids? And that's always the big debate. Natural or not. Okay, they're like, is this guy natural? He's not natural, because there's a lot of what they call fake natties. And that's a guy who is modified. He's been enhanced through performance-enhancing drugs. And he claims to be natural. And he does this because he wants you to buy his supplements. It's usually like protein powder or energy or pre-workout drink, you know what I mean? And he's basically insinuating that he got built like this with this product that he's selling you. All right? Mm-hmm. That's bullshit. That's not how he got that way.
Got to stay on the grift.
Okay? It's grifted. Okay? But a lot of them are kind of like semi-obvious about it, or like, no, I'm taking other things, but you, as a new guy who doesn't want to take steroids, this will help you. So that's kind of like how they get around that. you can read in between the lines that that's kind of what they're saying a lot of times.
Yeah.
Some guys are a little more straight up about it, like Greg Doucette, Coach Greg. I like him because he's straight up honest about everything. He'll tell you, what works, what doesn't work, what SARMs are, what fucking steroids are. He'll tell you everything, And he'll tell you he's on them, So it's kind of moving into the direction of honesty nowadays. But there's a lot of people who are new to this, and they are always trying to figure out who's natural and who's not natural. And really, that's when kind of like they start getting onto the subject of, well, what is possible without performance-enhancing drugs? It's difficult to know nowadays because a lot of guys are lying about what they're taking.
Yeah.
So to find out the truth, you got to go back into the past before steroids and performance-enhancing drugs existed. So if you can see the guys that were around before performance-enhancing drugs, you can say, well, that's what's possible on your own. Which brings us back to the very grandfather of all this, Eugen Sandow.
Yeah.
When you win the Olympia competition, they give you a damn statue, and it's called the Sandow Award. And it's a statue of Eugen Sandow standing there, buck-ass naked. I think he might have a fucking fig leaf
He
on.
usually had a fig leaf in his photographs.
With a single long weight. It's got a...
I found that picture, yeah.
Yeah.
I found that picture.
You can rest assured that he was a natty, all right? By today's standards, he was still real well built.
Yeah.
He didn't have...
He had big arms and shit like that.
He had big arms. He didn't have a big chest. That's because they didn't have bench press back then. And he didn't really work out by today's standards. His show, his routine he did on stage was his workout, really. He did it like once a day. And he told people, what he did. He motherfucker slept like fucking 15 hours a day, he claimed, ate a lot of fucking protein and sold naked selfies. That's probably what he did. And sold little 2-pound weights and told people that they'd get big if they fucking curled them 2-pound weights, which was bullshit. Sold a lot of fucking books, which helped a little bit, but he also sold tobacco and coffee. He said that'll make you strong too. He'll sell you anything, because man gotta eat, and you sell shit. But he was a great showman, and he was from Prussia, and Eugen Sandow was the beginning of fitness as we know it. Militaries adopted a lot of his training to keep their soldiers fit, like push-ups and sit-ups. So let's begin with that.
Yeah.
You want to start with that?
Yeah, because I feel like bodybuilding didn't really come about in any sort of like codified sort of way until he came along.
Right.
Because prior to that, even though, yes, in, ancient Greece and Rome and stuff like that, they did have, at least from the statues and at least from like, written accounts and things like that, they did have sort of a physical culture where people would like lift stones and things like that, like to get into shape. So they did know about that.
Yeah.
But
modern people didn't believe it though.
Yeah. But, I don't know why they wouldn't. I mean, it doesn't seem like a terribly hard thing to...
Evidently, even in the 1800s, for thousands of years, Europe people were looking at Greco-Roman statues.
Yeah.
Statues of Zeus and statues of like the pugilist and, statues of like heroes. And for thousands of years, people thought that was bullshit, that people couldn't be built that way, that it was an idealized figure. Eugen saw that, and he thought that might have been possible. So he was taking those statues and taking proportional measurements of them and trying to figure out if he could get his body to be shaped like that. And eventually he did, which he proved that, no, they did have biotechnology.
Yeah.
In other words, they knew about sports medicine. They knew how to work out and get big. Whatever methods they used probably have not survived over the times because the medievals weren't doing it, I don't think their priorities and their diet could have supported it.
No.
Rome was always emulating Greece. And I think Rome actually took that science to an even greater extent, according to what has survived. So, and because they were more wealthy than the ancient Greeks, because they were part of an empire, they could probably even have better diets. And they had a culture of going to these baths and bathhouses and walking around naked in mixed company and looking good. The old idea was just to look fucking good.
Yeah.
Kind of like going to Ipanema Beach, down in Brazil. And nudity wasn't a problem in Rome, so they showed their shit off. So, evidently, based on those statues, they must have and the idea of fucking sports medicine and what was happening in the arena, with gladiators and acrobats and armies. They knew about training and physical training. They knew about even how to repair wounds from combat. They must have had what we would know as weight sets.
Yeah.
Okay? And those are actually a new invention. The idea of having weights with, plates on it, and you can make it heavier and heavier. Sandow didn't really have those.
He had kind of the molded ones,
Yeah,
I think. But
they were like cast. There was usually a bar with spheres on the end of it.
Yeah.
And each one had a bigger and bigger and bigger sphere, so you couldn't fine-tune it by 5 pounds or 10 pounds as it went up or down.
You had to go buy a whole new one.
You had to go buy a whole new one. And a lot of times they only had a few of them.
Yeah.
Because they were expensive and they were custom jobs. And they didn't have a bench that you could lay down on and do bench presses. If you look at Sandow, you see his chest isn't as well developed.
Yeah, because bench press, it seems obvious now, but that was a much later invention.
It was a much later invention. They did other weird things where they would pick something up with one hand and get underneath it, or weird things that they had to bar above their head. But that you just, I can't even imitate the lift. Shit that didn't look like it would do anything.
Yeah.
Like you hold the bar straight up and then you go down, and the bar's in the same place, but you're going up and down. Instead of doing this, you're holding the bar straight and you are going up and down.
I don't know how effective that would be.
Yeah,
it doesn't seem like it would be very
not effective, but they were dealing with heavy weight for the time, and you could build a better body than just some dude.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because those guys were fucking scrawny, and they didn't really have the nutrition. But let's get into the deal.
Yeah, I mean, and I feel like even like starting at the very end, of the 19th century, when you had like, we went into it a little bit on our show about like circus sideshows and stuff like that, where they all had a strongman. But the thing about the strongman was that they weren't really, a lot of them were just kind of like, they just had big arms and they were strong. They weren't like doing anything, but some of them were like kind of chubby, or like they were just big dudes. Like some of the dudes you see in the strongman competitions nowadays, and they would just do shit like, pick up the bar with the dwarves on the end, or, tear phone books in half, or that kind of crap. So but because I guess Eugen Sandow came out of that scene, because he went around to carnivals and stuff, because that was just kind of what you did, if that was your talent back then. You just went around to circus and, sideshows and like displayed your feats of strength and everything. But he seemed to be the first person to really have this idea of displaying his body, or trying to get like the ideal, like his body to look in an ideal fashion, like the Greco-Roman statues, and then just kind of would go around and pose and let people like look at it. He was also the first guy. He had a manager, Florence Ziegfeld, who I guess is the same person responsible for the Ziegfeld Follies, like ask your great grandma if you don't know who about that. But all the dancers, like the kicking dancers and all that. But he was the first. He had like the first one to get into like marketing. He would like sell pictures of himself like posing like naked. Like I said, he just like had a fig leaf on. I found like a whole shit ton of photos of him. He had like pamphlets about how to lift weights and stuff. He sold his own like branded exercise equipment. Yeah. Like I said, the little barbells and like little like tension with a pulleys.
Spring in it.
Yeah, like shit like that. Not a shake weight.
Yeah, no. And his method, okay, I analyzed his training method. It wouldn't have worked. Okay. He was selling people 2-pound weights, a set of them, and you squeezed them. And you basically did bench, or you did curls with it, and you squeezed it as it went up, but it didn't really weigh anything. And then you would do stuff like this and squeeze them, like an overhead press, like a military press type deal. And he was talking about doing hundreds of reps with that.
Time for that.
And, all right. It would take not only would it take a long time, it would probably burn muscle off of you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Only 2 pounds, yeah.
That's but I think what the reason why I was doing that is because he was selling these after his shows. You could carry a lot of them.
Yeah.
All right, so you could sell a lot of them, make a lot of money, but you could carry,
Yeah, it's not like you wanted to like bring a whole fucking thing like
Yeah.
50, 100 pound
Yeah,
like barbells
you know, what are you
around
gonna
on
do?
the road with you.
Sell them a fucking 30-pound, two 30-pound barbells? You couldn't carry enough of them.
Yeah.
But I think what he probably rationalized it as that it was better than nothing. And
Well, it is,
you were,
yeah.
And you were. I'm not sure. I'm actually not sure. I think it was more about bringing the awareness of fitness to people.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of the customers might have been female that were doing that.
Yeah.
Because evidently females came to see him a lot. His show.
Well, yeah.
Because it might have been more kind of like the original Chippendales type.
I was going to say,
situation.
that was like the fucking early 20th century version of like Magic Mike or some shit like
Yeah. But he didn't get big on 2-pound fucking barbells.
Well,
he
clearly
got big
not.
on lifting heavy
if you
weights.
see like pictures of him, and I found like I said, I found a shit ton of photographs of him because that he was like really, really famous in his day, and he was known for like selling these like cards and like little booklets and stuff that had like pictures of him in it, and he was always posing and stuff. So yeah, I mean, he had like a pretty respectable looking arms, even for nowadays.
You get big from destroying muscle tissue.
Yeah.
If repetitions made you big and strong, then guys who just worked in restaurants and waitresses would all be huge. Because that's all they do is just move around all day. But they don't get big. They just burn up a lot of calories.
Yeah.
Okay? You gain a lot more from just like one single super heavy lift that's done just in a few seconds than you do of a whole day of just walking around. It's one single highly concentrated output of power that just fucks up muscle. You don't get big from that because you actually get weaker from that because your muscle fibers are all torn up. But then you sit back and heal up for a couple days. And after all that healing up, you're a little bit bigger and a little bit stronger than you were before.
Yeah.
And you just repeat, rinse and repeat. Do that over and
Yeah,
over
it's
again.
basically
And you'll get
just-
bigger.
It's basically just tearing your muscles up and having them heal themselves.
And then have them
they
heal
come
back up.
larger.
And then you're progressively adding more weight. So over time, those lifts involve a heavier weight than it was last month. Until eventually you peak out.
Yeah.
And then you take steroids and do more. That's what they do. Okay.
And then you become
Takes about 5 years to reach your fucking potential. And then after you want to get any bigger than that, then you're going to require fucking outside support.
Yeah.
Even if you're young. And with the advent of anabolics, which the show will eventually get into, in 18 months you can do what it would normally take fucking 10 years to do. You can do it in 18 months with anabolic. It's absolutely. It was at the time that all that came out. That was like super soldier serum. It was supernatural. People couldn't believe it, but you pay for it. It's not good for you.
Yeah.
Fucks your kidneys up.
Well, that's it. There's
kidneys,
never
liver,
anything
liver.
such
Sorry.
thing as there's never any such thing as a free ride.
No.
It's like anything that seems like magical and wonderful and anything like that, it's gonna kick your ass somewhere down the line.
There's a difference between abuse and use, though. Doctors prescribe it to heal up wounds.
Sure, yeah.
And some people who have used it in doses that were low enough to really, you're not really getting supernatural results, but you're getting good results. You know what I mean? So there's always kind of middle paths and therapeutic doses and shit. But still, you're not natural if you do that.
Yeah.
That's called enhancement, you know what I mean? Which we'll get to.
Yeah. But yeah, so Sandow was actually the person that organized the first official bodybuilding contest. This took place in 1901 at the Royal Albert Hall in London. Sandow did not compete in it, obviously, because
He would have won.
That would have been cheating.
Yeah,
But
he would have
so he was one of the judges, and also one of the other judges was Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. So
Yeah.
famous people all around.
It's called the Great Competition.
The Great Competition. That's what they called it.
Yeah. It's
it-
funny when you see the guys in the Great Competition, there's photos of it.
Yeah.
They're just regular guys. I would have won the Great Competition.
Well, this was 1901. I
Yeah.
mean, nobody was really like.
Yeah. They weren't
all
working
fucking-
out. They weren't working out. They were just guys that maybe were like lumberjacks or they fucking lifted stuff inside of a factory.
Yeah.
But they were head and shoulders above the average man of that time.
Yeah.
But it's kind of funny. Now, if you guys want to see Sandow, you should probably put up some photos of him.
I got lots of photos.
And there's also, you might be able to graft in there's some film of him from the Smithsonian Institute.
Oh, I have to find that.
It's
Okay.
a black and white of him doing his routine. And it is a posing routine. It's very antiquated. You know what I mean? It's not quite as smooth as a guy today would do it, but I think that's where the routine came from. He wanted to be shot in shadow so you could see his definition and doing his little fucking routine.
Really ahead of the fucking curve.
Way
man.
ahead of the curve. Way ahead of the curve.
I mean, it almost seems like
he would be impressive today.
And it seems like it almost kind of came out of nowhere. I mean, I know nothing does, and I'm sure he probably got the idea from somewhere else, but it really does seem like almost all of the modern stuff that people know about bodybuilding, like all of the the branded products and like just him like selling pictures of himself like magazines and stuff like that with his picture on it. He did all that shit.
Well, he caused a breakthrough.
Yeah.
Because people saw those Greek statues and thought that was bullshit. And he just showed up and go, man, it's possible. So, and there was other guys around that time that were starting to do it too.
Yeah.
Bobby Pandour was another one who I think he might have been a little. I think they lived at the same time, I believe. Are we going to talk about him at all?
I don't remember if he's in my notes or not.
I think Bobby Pandour was a little bit later, but they did live together. They did live in the same time period, if I remember correctly. He was a little bit bigger, but Eugen was before. He was the one that really did. And he shows up, and he actually looks like that, and people were impressed. So, of course, it's going to start snowballing. People are going, well, I'm going to do that too.
Yeah, because it must be said that when he came out, I mean, he was hugely, hugely famous. When he organized the first bodybuilding competition in the Royal Albert Hall, which is like not a small venue, it was packed. They had to turn people away because of all the people that showed up to it. He
got famous for basically punking out fucking strongmen.
Yeah,
he would go to a strongman's act. And strongmen at that time, they wore these damn furs with a thing to go over the shoulder.
Fred Flintstone type of.
Yeah, like trying to look like a wild man or something, like a caveman, And they would lift stuff, but it wasn't all that heavy. And they had tricks to make it harder to lift, like the handles on things would be like really fat, like the size of a Coke can, which made stuff a little bit harder to lift. It took practice to learn how to lift something that was a little bit larger diameter. Well, Sandow would show up and watch this guy do his routine. And a lot of times, it was kind of part of a strongman's routine is to challenge people in the audience to try to lift it.
Yeah.
And Eugen would be out there in a damn suit. Okay, so you really couldn't see how big he was. And then he'd accept the challenge. And when the guy would tell him to come up on stage, it was a special suit that he could rip away like a stripper.
And he thought of everything.
Oh, fucking right he did. I secretly believe he was a stripper. I do. Because
I've seen some of the photos that would not shock me.
He evidently had special showings for like women's only showings. And it may have been like later on, party. I think maybe they might have been some special showings for men too.
Yeah.
All right, because his wife was not happy with him in the end of his life, and she wouldn't let him back in the house. And some have theorized that he may have sold his services to some men. That's possible. We don't know.
And probably other women, too. He was just selling it all around.
Yeah. Well, he was a fucking fine specimen for his day. Even today, he would have been impressive to see walking down the street. You'd be like, that's a big fucking dude, Yeah. But he would tear his suit off, you know what I mean, like that, and the crowd would just go fucking wild. And he would get up there and fucking best everything that dude could do, and punk that fucking strongman out, and then he would plug his show from dude's stage.
That's pretty ballsy.
Yeah,
because these strongman's like, thanks a lot, man. I just got fired.
He'd get up there and fucking cuck the shit out of the guy, cuck the shit out of him.
Oh man,
steal his shows.
But, I mean, the whole...
But Sandow he had to up the game.
Yeah.
If you were in his position, you had all these second and third rate strongmen running around that weren't as strong as you. It's just you'd be your natural right, really, to just go out there and go, these guys are all weak compared to me. You can see, I can do this. I can do this and I can do that. Which is forcing them to up the game.
Yeah, he was making everybody be better. That's
Making
what he was
everybody
doing.
fucking. You're gonna have to lift. You're gonna have to really lift. Because some of the strong men, a lot of it was kind of tricks. Some of it.
Yeah, like not all of it. And like I said, we went into that a little bit. We didn't really talk about strongmen a lot on our circus sideshow thing, but because I figured we'd probably be doing one of these shows later on. But a lot of the shit in there was faked, or at least was not as cool as it looked. So I do think a lot of the strongmen, were the weights were not.
They weren't as heavy as you thought they were.
They weren't that heavy, or they like would switch out a lighter
Yeah.
one for a heavy one
Yeah.
when somebody came up to try to lift.
Like
it and shit
the
like that.
barbell with the big spheres on the end of it. Some of them were solid and some of them were hollow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so it didn't weigh anywhere as much as nowhere near as much. It might say 200 pounds on it.
Yeah.
But it actually only weighed 100.
Yeah.
That kind of stuff.
Which is still heavy, but not
Yeah, 200's light.
not 200 pounds.
Yeah. 200's light.
But so like you said, this first competition, which was won by a guy named William Murray, and the trophy that they got is still, as far as I know, the same trophy that they give to Mr. Olympia nowadays.
Yeah, Sandow.
It's
Sandow
a
work.
sculpture of Sandow. And they had a gold one, a silver one, and a bronze one. I think the one they do for Mr. Olympia is the bronze one now, right? But I think
I don't know if
like
it's-
at the first competition, he had gold, silver, and bronze, just like at the Olympics. And as far as I know, like I said, I don't know if it's the exact same sculpture, but it's
I think it is.
it's
It looks
still,
like it.
It's still like the one of the they started doing that in the 70s, I think, for the Mr. Olympia that they
Joe
that they
Weider.
started making. Yeah,
Joe Weider, yeah.
It was like his idea to like make the trophy look like that, the same one.
It looks similar, at least.
Yeah,
Because the one that they were handing out for the Olympia, it looks like something from the 1800s, the style.
Yeah, because it was a sculpture that somebody
sculpture.
made of him, and
Right.
that's like a little bitty sculpture. And it's like, it's
Kind of Sandow looking like David. Kind of like the Roman statue
Yeah,
of David, kind
yeah.
of. You know what I mean? The David the Hunter.
Yeah.
Kind of looks like that, but he's holding that damn
the barbell.
single belt. Yeah.
Yeah.
Big old barbell.
Now the first, so that one happened in England. Then they had the first one that was in the United States was actually the very end of 1903 and the early 1904. It was like a couple of days, and that was at Madison Square Garden. Now this was like, I don't know if Sandow had anything to do with this one, but this one was a guy named Bernard McFadden. He's known as the father of physical culture. And he was the one, he started publishing like bodybuilding magazines, like Health and Strength and stuff like that. So that was the first one in the United States. The guy that won that one was named Al Treloar, and he was called the most perfectly developed man in the world. He won $1,000, which back then, that was a shit ton of money. I looked it up because I was like, how much is that nowadays? $29,000. So not bad, for back then. So they also, so Thomas Edison also did made a film of this guy's like posing routine. So I don't know. So I gotta see if I can find that, and maybe I can like put it in this. Okay. I'm sure I don't know if it's survived or not. But Edison had made some films of Sandow as well, which you had talked about, and he had done those a couple of years before that. So the films of Sandow and the films of Al Treloar were like the first official like bodybuilding films like ever made.
Yeah.
So you have.
Now, what year is this now?
This is 1904.
1904. Okay,
Yes.
around that time. All right.
Yeah. And like I said, the first bodybuilding competition that Sandow did, that was 1901.
Yeah, because I remember that Sandow was starting to work out and starting to get big. He was on that path in the 1890s.
Yeah.
So by the time that 1904 rolling around, he was already big.
Yeah, because I mean the whole circus strongman thing that started like mid 19th century.
Yeah.
And then he started coming about like in 1880, 1890, somewhere around there. Like he started like coming to the fore and like doing all that kind of stuff, like the bodybuilding stuff. So there were a lot of like other early ones, and like some people started like publishing magazines and shit like that, like in the 30s and 40s. It's funny because I remember they said one of the earliest bodybuilders was Francis X. Bushman, who was actually quite a famous silent film actor. And he was actually had either trained under Sandow or was like a big fan of his. And he was a bodybuilder, and he also worked as a sculptor's model.
Yeah.
But then he went on and did silent films later on. I was like, hey, I know, I've heard of that guy. So it kind of went on until in the 50s and 60s, it started getting like a lot more popular because like a lot of the magazines started going a little bit more like not mainstream exactly, but starting to get more popular. You got like more like strength competitions, gymnastics competitions, that kind of stuff. There was more focus on weight training, like how to do it properly. There was more focus on nutrition, like proper nutrition, learning how like bulking and cutting.
Yeah.
That kind of came about in the 50s and 60s.
I gotta mention though, 30s and 40s, you already started to see some fantastic physiques though.
Yeah.
And some people have said there must have been anabolics involved because you looked at the dudes. They had classic physique, which is they kind of look like, I don't know, hood ornaments.
Yeah.
Kind of big upper bodies, good six-pack, kind of normalish looking legs. Look like a stereotypical superhero, like Superman, like a Superman cut. I don't believe anabolics was involved. They knew about testosterone. By the time the 40s had come around, they kind of had some of the theoretical stuff that they kind of had knowledge of anabolics, but it wasn't being produced. This was, they didn't really have the technology. You could extract testosterone from a bunch of dog nuts or bull nuts or whatever.
Old bull nuts. We were talking about those the other day.
But if you just injected that into your bloodstream, it would turn into something else real quickly. The half-life was very short of something like that.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be in your bloodstream long enough to help you at all get big as performance enhancing. It's not until the fucking 50s that they had all the chemicals and the chemistry available to make what you need to be called a steroid. All right? So I'm just trying to shoot down some of the stuff. I was listening to guys that did all the fucking research, you know what I mean? Calling bullshit on people saying, no, these dudes in the 30s and the 40s, they must have had some kind of a testosterone or performance enhancement. No, they're natural. They knew about that stuff, but it wasn't being produced and the technology wasn't reliable. And even if they got their hands on it, it would have been super expensive and real unreliable. It wasn't until the damn 50s, late 50s and the 60s. And even then it was expensive. But they had it, but it was super expensive even in the 50s.
It wasn't widespread.
It wasn't widespread. It wasn't where it was in the 50s and in the 60s. It wasn't to the point to where a gym rat could go to a gym and get his hands on a reliable source of anabolic steroids that he could afford. It wasn't there.
Yeah.
It wasn't until the 70s. I think that's when it became a little bit more. Late 60s, early 70s. That's probably when they could get their hands on it for a reasonable amount.
That sounds about right. Because it does seem like...
That's the golden age of bodybuilding, and that's when they all appeared.
Yeah.
Okay, and it had a lot to do with California and Joe Weider down at Gold's Gym, because right across the border inside Mexico was a fucking laboratory that was making high-quality anabolic steroids.
Yeah.
It wasn't illegal.
Fortuitous.
It wasn't illegal. It was legal.
Yeah.
And that's where all that came from.
There's a lot of, there's still like a lot of restrictions on it nowadays, even though some of the bodybuilding associations don't explicitly forbid it in competition. Some competitions do, though.
Well, if you're going to go to the Olympia, man, it's required.
Yeah.
They just automatically assume, well, you got to be on roids to be in this competition.
Well, didn't they start drug testing them?
No.
In the 90s, I thought?
No,
maybe for a year or two.
I don't.
Or maybe it was 2000. I can't remember. They said they were talking about it on the documentary.
Maybe, but
I don't know if
that couldn't have lasted long.
No, probably not.
Because the Olympia is the fucking steroid competition. It's a competition to see who
Well,
can
they
take
were
the best
talking
steroids.
about how, and I guess, like I said, the documentary I saw was 5 years old, but they were talking about how, at that time, what was then the current time, how everything was more going toward like mass monsters, like people just wanted to get bigger and bigger and bigger, and they were like started to get like really freakish looking, rather than, and some of the people were like kind of lamenting like, oh, we're getting away from like the symmetry and the aesthetics and everything, which bodybuilding was originally supposed to be about, and now everybody just wants to look like this big roided out monster. But I feel like in the last few years it's kind of going back.
It's going to go back to classic physique.
And I think even a couple of years ago they even had that subcategory now. They have like classic physique, and they have like all different ones. But yeah, so like you said, you mentioned Joe Weider. Joe and Ben Weider, the brothers, they actually started the International Federation of Bodybuilders in 1946. And so right around this time, like I said, right before the dawn of the 50s, all these new like bodybuilding federations and associations like sprang up, and they all had their own competitions. So all these magazines started to be, so it's kind of started to be a thing where, you could go around and compete in all these different, contests if you were into that type of thing. Now, the Mr. Olympia competition, which is now considered, if you win Mr. Olympia, you're like the best bodybuilder in the world. That's like how it's considered. That started in 1965. They did have, prior to that, they did have Mr. America, Mr. World, Mr. Universe, Mr. Galaxy. They had all the different fucking... Mr. Cosmos, no, I just made that one up. But yeah, so Mr. Olympia, which, fun fact, was apparently named after a beer that they were drinking, like they were drinking at a bar and talking about, we should have like the best like bodybuilding competition in the whole world. What should we call it? He's like looking at the beer bottle. He's like, Olympia. He's like, we can't call it that. It's a beer. And he's like, but Olympia, like Mount Olympus.
Like a Mount Olympus. They were gods coming down.
Yeah, that's what the other guy said. And he's like, we can't name it after a beer.
Well, they were supernatural.
That's the story I heard.
They were supernatural. What they're doing, I think the natural versus modified argument is all bullshit anyway, because bodybuilding itself and lifting weights isn't unnatural behavior.
Yeah, we were talking about this on one of the sidetrack shows.
And the diets they're eating is not something that you'd be able to get in nature if you were out there as a hunter-gatherer. That's why you didn't see fucking gigantic Indians or gigantic fucking Africans. You know what I mean? African tribesmen.
Who the hell can eat? Like some of those can't eat that much. Some of those strongmen, like in the strongman competitions, they eat like 10,000 calories a day.
Yeah, and they're lifting
How do they
a
even
lot.
have time to do that?
Yeah.
I don't even
And according
know
to Leroy Colbert, even before steroids, they were doing stuff around the time steroids showed up. When steroids showed up, they weren't impressed with them because they didn't know it, but they weren't taking very high doses of it.
Yeah.
Other guys were taking high doses of vitamins, and they were like intravenous vitamins. They were like injecting themselves with fucking vitamin B's, and B complex vitamins. I heard it was injections. Some people said they were eating it, but I think it was injections. And in that time period, according to Leroy, the guys that were injecting vitamins were getting bigger than the guys who were taking steroids. So the guys that were taking steroids started upping their doses. And they got into like a fucking arms race between how many damn vitamins you could inject into your bloodstream or how many damn steroids. It was like two warring factions in the same gym, where he was out in California. And eventually it got to the point to where the guys that were taking the steroids were taking a dose that was about 1,000 times what they were greater than what they were originally taking that didn't have any results. But over time the steroids won out. That actually worked. They took them, you know what I mean? But the doses they were talking about, you needed a lot of dose. Now that's the normal dose.
Yeah.
But they didn't know what the doses were back then. They were just taking little.
Well, yeah, it was like a new thing.
It's like
everyone was like figuring it out.
Right, but it makes me wonder, how effective were those vitamins? They claimed that injecting vitamins worked, and they didn't invent that because they were injecting those vitamins into cattle, and the cattle were getting big.
Yeah.
But it's kind of like a lost art.
Now we just feed them corn.
Well, if you didn't want, they might still be doing it. I don't know.
It would. If it works, they wouldn't.
They're probably just injecting them with steroids because they're injecting the chickens with steroids.
Oh yeah.
But how effective was injecting vitamin B? B vitamin. It might have been pretty good. They thought it was.
Yeah.
But who knows if you could get it nowadays?
Yeah, I'm not injectable vitamin B. I'm not really sure.
They didn't invent that shit. They got that from the fucking farmers that were injected that into cattle. And it's funny because when he said that, it clicked in my mind watching those old Looney Tunes cartoons where somebody did inject, Bugs Bunny injected himself with vitamin B and he got strong.
Yeah, so maybe it was like everybody knew about it.
Everybody knew about it back then.
Enough that like they put it in a Looney Tunes cartoon.
Yeah.
That's fucking crazy.
But it's like a forgotten thing.
Yeah.
steroids were more effective, so they
Yeah, maybe other things came along that supplanted it.
it.
Or maybe they found out later that it was harmful or something.
No, I think it just got supplanted.
Yeah.
Because it was probably more cost efficient. They got bigger and it cost less, and it was faster.
Yeah.
But how good was vitamin B? Maybe it was pretty good. Maybe it was 10% of what steroids were.
Yeah.
Who knows?
And the thing
But it's
about it
forgotten
is
now.
that vitamin B, I don't know about injectable vitamin B, but I mean, vitamin B is not illegal.
No. But it's just a forgotten technology.
Yeah.
You might be able to go and just start injecting you with vitamins that they were putting in there in the 40s and 50s. And you might get pretty big. And I've never heard any gym rats talking about it other than Leroy.
Yeah. And he was around, I mean, he was kind of one of the famous ones in the 50s, right? 50s
Yeah.
and 60s.
Yeah. And now, some people have said Leroy didn't know what he was talking about because the dudes that were saying they were injecting themselves with vitamin B were actually injecting themselves with steroids.
Yeah.
But they were lying.
Because it was quote unquote vitamin B.
They were just calling it vitamin B. But
It's
it was
my
steroids.
vitamins.
Right. But evidently they were doing it to cattle. So it's something I need to research.
Yeah, that's kind of interesting.
How effective was it on cattle? And how effective was it on humans? It's weird.
Yeah.
And would it fuck up your liver? Injecting it would bypass your liver.
Yeah.
I think. It could.
Yeah, I'm not sure how that would work. I don't know. I'd have to look that up.
Well, I know injectable steroids are easier on your liver than the oral steroids.
Yeah.
So
Well, that makes sense.
So that's why they do it.
Yeah.
You can eat oral steroids. It just fuck you up. That's what Arnie took. All oral, mostly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Fuck
where
your
are we?
heart up.
Yeah.
Your liver.
Yeah, and you kind of need your heart and your liver. Pro tip.
He's still alive, though.
True.
A lot of them lived. They didn't know. Back then, they figured if it got you big and it got you strong,
Then
then it's good for you.
Yeah.
You're healthy. They didn't know.
That was,
And,
yeah.
And like I said, there's a lot of guys that have taken just small amounts of it. They're fine. It's just that, there's such a thing as abuse. You can abuse any drug. You can just do fucking a lot of it,
Yeah, because some of them, some bodybuilders do die kind of young.
Yeah, but I got to be honest. When I was in high school, there were guys that were 16 years old that were fucking on gear.
Yeah.
On the football team taking fucking steroids. That's why they were assholes.
Yeah.
Fucking bad acne and fucking huge at fucking 17. The motherfucker's big.
Yeah.
Bigger than a man. Like some shit. Like something out of fucking Predator. That's the way it was back in the 80s.
Yeah.
People forget.
Everybody had to be all fucking...
Fucking, yeah.
jacked.
Well, at the schools I was at, every one of those pretty much every one of those damn star football players was fucking on gear, man. They were on steroids.
Yeah.
They were fucking huge. There's one of them, I know his name. Fucking, that motherfucker was huge. He must have been fucking 6-something, 6'2", probably weighed like 250 pounds.
Wonder what he
probably
looks like
fucking
now.
giant. He got into a car wreck, and he couldn't remember my name when he saw me. After that car wreck, his head was all fucked up. He gained a bunch of weight. They all ended up fat. Now that I think about it,
Yeah, I was
they all
gonna
ended
say,
up fat
they usually do
because they come off of all that shit.
Yeah.
And their fucking testosterone fucking count gets real fucking low, and they gain a bunch of weight, and they get kind of lethargic. You got to stay on it if you're
That's
you're
the
gonna
shitty thing about it is
Yeah.
that if you're in competitions and stuff, it's going to make you look good for the competition and stuff, but you can't, like, once you get amped up to that point, you get that big, you can't stop taking it.
And you can't stop working out. You can stop taking it. A lot of them do. It's called going off cycle. Go off cycle. Just that there's shit that you need to do to get your normal testosterone going back to normal. Post-cycle therapy. And then it's probably best, especially if you're older, to go on testosterone replacement therapy because some of that shit fucks up your testosterone forever if you misuse it, especially at certain ages. So you're going to be on that forever, and then you need to work out. You can't stop working out.
Yeah, because you'll just get fat.
Once you get to a certain level, I'm not talking about just a casual guy, but I'm talking about you get up to the pro level. You can't stop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which, and in a way that's kind of bad because if it's like, bad for you and you can't stop taking it, but then if you do stop taking it, you get fat.
No, you can't stop working out.
Yeah.
You can stop taking it. You have to a lot of times, but There's got to be maintenance levels of stuff. Every one of them that's fucking huge like that, like many pounds over their genetic potential, if you actually analyze what they're doing, they're kind of like drug addicts.
Yeah.
Because they come off steroids, but then they go on other things. And then they're on TRT, and then they got to always constantly take something. They got to take something because they're trying to maintain all this muscle that's not supposed to be there.
Yeah.
They stop taking that shit, then the muscle goes away, and then they end up at what their genetic potential was. They get smaller.
Yeah.
They don't necessarily get fat. But some of these guys are addicted to being bigger than they can be. Like I said, the roids adds that last 20 pounds. You know what I mean? When the roids go away, that last 20 pounds goes back down. They're still got a lot of muscle, though.
Yeah.
But if they stop working out and they stop everything, they'll get real fat. They tend to.
Because that'll just be...
Or at least when they're young, from what I saw. If a dude, maybe he's 50 and he worked out his whole life. You know what I mean? He's got a lot of conditioning. And maybe he didn't spend a lot of time beyond his genetic potential with that extra 20 pounds on there. You know what I mean? Maybe he lost that a long time ago and maintained it. Because there are some of these pros that haven't competed for a long time. They're in their 60s and 70s. They look great.
Yeah.
But they work out. They still work out. And I don't know. I mean, do they take little... Are they on testosterone replacement therapy? Probably. Are they taking like occasional light cycles of steroids to kind of like rejuvenate themselves? You know what I mean? That's a lot of muscle mass. You know what I mean? For an old man. You know what I mean? So maybe you might need a little bit of that to kind of freshen things up again every few years. I don't know. Because a lot of times they won't say. They just do things as they need it.
Yeah.
I'm
kind of wondering, though, like some of the guys that I saw in the documentary that were, competing in Mr. Olympia, like in 2013, 2014. And as I said, at that time period, it seemed like everything was just going bigger. And like the guy that won that year, because he won it like 8 times in a row or something like that, he was almost 300 pounds. And they were saying how that was like unprecedented, how they just kept getting bigger and heavier and heavier. And they were kind of like having a discussion over whether it's like, is it really fair for a dude that weighs this like 300 pounds of muscle to be competing against somebody that's like works out, but it's like aesthetically pleasing and muscular and stuff, but only weighs like 180 pounds. Say.
Right. He's
like, maybe like in boxing or in other sports, they should have like weight classes.
Well, I think they kind of do that now.
Yeah. They weren't in the time that this documentary came out, so maybe they've done it subsequently.
They also have like natural natural bodybuilding, which those guys kind of look fucking weird as shit, and because they got to be really lean, so they starve themselves down. I don't think the natural competition looks right, but what looks better than the natural to me would be what they call men's fitness. Yeah. Which is weird because they're allowed to have these big ass fucking shorts that go down to their knees.
Yeah, board shorts.
And they all got those fucking same shorts on. It looks fucking stupid as shit.
Why do they do that?
They don't work their legs out at all.
I know, but it's like still.
Wear some fucking normal shorts.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But they're young guys and they're dumb. They don't want. There's something kind of beta-like about all wanting to fucking wear the same shorts. If you ask me, you know what I mean. It's just they want to be followers and look like everybody else. And a lot of the men's fitness guys, they look exactly the same. Yeah. But so do a lot of female models. But go ahead. Let's go on the.
Yeah. So in the 1950s, like I said, bodybuilding got like a larger, like a mainstream kind of more of a footprint, I guess, just because of TV and like they had people like, Jack LaLanne, you had Steve Reeves, and he was in like the Hercules movies.
Steve Reeves was fucking amazing.
He was a very large dude.
For his time, he was just fucking amazing.
I've seen a bunch of his Hercules movies because they did a bunch of them on MST. And also Mickey Hargitay, who also played Hercules in one movie that was on MST, and who also was married to Jane Mansfield for a time. Yeah. And they were in the Hercules movie together, as far as I can remember it. Can't remember what the name of the fucking Hercules movie was. I saw it on Mystery Science Theater, but yeah, Mickey Hargitay was in it. He was actually quite large, too.
Steve Reeves kind of, when you see him, I kind of wanted to say he was on steroids, but man, it was kind of before steroids were real common. He must have just fucking, I don't know, must have had just fucking superior genetics.
Yeah, I do feel like some people... I mean, everybody can look good, but some people are just going to look
that dude was one in a million for a natural.
You know, because I mean, they even talked about like, you know, when they were talking about Mr. Olympia, they were talking about like people like Sergio Oliver and people like that, who one thing that they said about him when he first came into like the fucking Mr. Olympia competition was that he looked like he had like the best genetics of anybody that they had ever seen, because he was not only like really really big and really symmetrical, but he had like a really small waist, and it was like natural.
Yeah.
Because
usually V-taper.
Yeah. And like you don't see that a lot, I guess.
Yeah. It's genetic.
Yeah.
And if you don't have it, then you're going to need fucking some kind of chemical assistance to get that.
And the thing about it too is that in a lot of bodybuilding competitions, and maybe a lot of people don't know this, but that when they like before they compete, they pretty much they don't drink any water, right? Or no salt, no nothing, like, because they don't want any water retention. They don't want anything like that. They put like they inject stuff into their muscles, like called fluffing, to like make them look a little bit bigger. They before they go out on stage, they like kind of like lift weights and like pull towels and stuff like that to like
try to get everything warmed up.
To puff them muscles up and everything like that. They have like all these fucking tricks that, you know, obviously oiling and tanning and all that other kind of stuff too, like make everything look better. But there was this one guy, and I can't like remember his name. I know I have a picture of him, but he was talking about, he was on this documentary and he was talking about how he wanted to be like the butt guy. Like he wanted to have like the best butt and like all the fucking, because this is like the level that we're at.
This is the level we're at.
Yeah, I'm just saying.
Yeah.
So
it's about looks.
Well, the weird thing about it though was he was like going on and on about that. I'm like, all right, let's see this vaunted butt that you're talking about, and he had the fucking weirdest. Oh, it was weird.
It must be one of those kind of monkey butts that doesn't have any fat on it at all. I've seen that. What you're talking about. It just looks kind of like flat and a bunch of lines.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's what you wanted?
Yeah. Some of this stuff, if you ask me, some of this bodybuilder shit, it goes too far.
Yeah.
You end up with some dude that looks like a damn anatomy poster. You know those anatomy posters with the fucking skin gone? You end up looking like that. They're trying to get all these little striations and having 0% body fat. It's just, you're going to die.
Yeah,
and it doesn't look good.
No one's supposed to have 0% body fat.
It doesn't look good.
You need fat, otherwise your brain doesn't work right.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't look good.
Well, that's what I mean, and that's what I was like, because I was working on something else, and I was like watching the documentary on over here, and he kept going on and on about how he was going to be the butt guy and everything. I'm like, so what does the butt look like? So I look at the butt, and I'm just like, oh, what the fuck?
Yeah.
I didn't need to see that. Yeah. It didn't even look like a good. It wasn't like a little squishable butt or nothing like that. It was just like this really weird, foldy, flat thing.
Really, it's hard to top. Looking. It's hard to top like Steve Reeves. You talk about Steve Reeves. That looks more like a person.
Yeah.
You know.
I mean, he looks like a big buff.
Yeah, big buff.
He looked like Hercules, like I said, because he
looked like a Superman.
Yeah.
And what how can you improve on that? It's called aesthetics. What we're talking about, the
that's
aesthetics.
what I mean. You can't
improve on that. That's the way. Now, there's always going to be individual variations. Another man might be just as excellent, but have a slightly different appearance. But it might compete with that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But some of the shit that you were talking about, it's too extreme.
Yeah, like I said, when I saw some of the newer guys, or some of the guys that were competing in Olympia, like in the, the main category, in 5 or 6 years ago, they just looked freakish to me. They looked like just big ogre. They had like all these fucking veins. It's like these freaky like.
I'm not into there's only one mass monster that looks good to me, and that's Kai Green.
Yeah,
he's a black guy with a big long ponytail that goes down. He looks pretty good for a mass monster, but the other ones they kind of.
Yeah, it's very.
It suits him, but it doesn't suit a lot of the other ones.
Yeah, to me it just looks like unsettling.
It's not aesthetic. And it's not aesthetic, and I'm not the only one saying that. There's a lot of bodybuilders that are going to say that the mass monster.
Well, some people said
proved
that.
They proved what they wanted to prove.
Yeah.
How big can you fucking get? They proved it, that you could get as big as a car. Basically, okay? With the right help, you could get as big as a car. That's fucking over with. They need to go back to wanting to look like a damn fucking hood ornament.
I do feel like it's going back in that direction. Because like I said, at the very end of this documentary, they were talking about, they were talking to some of the guys that had won Mr. Olympia, and they were very, very large. Like I said, they're almost 300 pounds. And they did like talk to a lot of people, a lot of bodybuilders, a lot of people in the scene and stuff like that. They were like, I really wish we could get back to, you know, where it was more about symmetry or aesthetics or something like that, instead of just trying to get as big as possible and just have these like bizarre, like looking freaks of nature that don't look like any reasonable person could get to that standard. Because it almost seems like, and we were talking about this on the Sidetrack show, it's almost kind of like, you know, people that get like plastic surgery, like a little bit, like getting a nip and tuck here and there, getting a boob job, getting some, that looks good. But then some people just take it to these ridiculous extremes, which that's their prerogative.
You
like
end
you
up
can,
looking like the lion woman.
yeah, like you can do whatever you want with your body. I'm not like, you know, I'm not judging. I'm just saying that there comes a point where it just doesn't look.
It's diminishing returns.
Yeah, it just doesn't look good anymore, I don't think. I mean, you know what I mean? So I do kind of feel like the dudes that just feel like the butt guy and the guys that, you know, want to be 300 pounds and like just have muscles on top of muscles and just look like the fucking Michelin Man or whatever. I'm just like, I feel like there might be something going on there, like something lacking. Like,
Well,
it's almost like, it's like manorexia.
It's manorexia. But what was funny, like back in the 80s, growing up seeing Arnold, you know, and I never would, you know, Franco Colombo, man, he looked fucking great. You know what I mean?
I got some pictures.
That was
of him,
Arnold's
too.
friend.
Yeah.
He was in
Pumping
Conan.
Iron.
He was also in Conan.
Yeah.
He was like the little scout that fucking scouted out before the fucking attack happened in the very beginning. Franco was Arnold's fucking friend who died just about a year back, drowned. Fucking sad.
Holy shit.
Yeah, he was out swimming and drowned.
In a pool or in
ocean.
like the ocean? Oh,
The
shit.
ocean.
That sucks.
He had a heart attack while he was swimming.
Oh, no.
Yeah. But, you know, these guys are getting up there in age, you know. So that some people say, well, that's steroids. He lived a fucking high-quality life, Franco. And he was a great guy. Fucking Arnie called him a little, what did he call him? A little mutant monkey man. He said he was subhuman. Okay.
That's
said
nice.
he was subhuman. Well, that's the kind of guy fucking, that was his best buddy.
I just be like, thanks?
Yeah, that was his best. Yeah, Franco's like, huh? What? He said it in front of Franco. He goes, he was like subhuman, like a little monkey man. He can lift a whole refrigerator. You know, just because he was talking about him during that strongman competition.
Yeah.
That Franco, he's like 5'4", 5'5". So he's about Lee Priest size, but he was like he looked good, but he was fucking extremely fucking strong, much stronger than he should have been for his size. He evidently could lift more than Arnold.
Interesting.
Well, he had a smaller skeleton with a bunch of fucking muscle packed on it, so
Yeah.
a little
He
more
was
leverage.
denser.
A little more leverage, and you don't have to move a weight as far,
True.
you know. Long bones, you know what I mean, require a lot of fucking muscle, and you know, to move a heavy weight. But Arnold was talking about, you know, that he was fucking stronger than he should have been, and he said he was subhuman, like a monkey, or like a gorilla. You know, that's what he meant. They were buddies, you know. They're fucking Arnold. Fucking okay. Leroy, I tell you on Leroy Colbert's fucking YouTube channel, he's got fucking thousands of videos. I'll sit there and listen to that fucking old man just fucking talk to you like for fucking days and days and days. He'll tell you stories about fucking Arnold. And he had recordings of him talking to Arnold back in the 80s. He had recordings of it, you know, and Arnold telling him to fucking shut up that he talks too much and shit. It's fucking hilarious. He wouldn't stop running his mouth. And when you think of Arnold Schwarzenegger, you think of kind of like a serious guy, you know. But no, a motherfucker was a clown. And he was kind of stuck up, and he likes to fuck with people a lot.
I believe that.
He liked to fuck with people a lot. And he loved to bullshit. All right?
I believe that,
He
too.
loved to fucking bullshit. People would ask him, you know, how'd you get so big? And he would go, this is what you do. You take a little bit of dishwater, and you put it inside your fucking drink. You drink a little bit of dishwater every fucking day. And what it is because he's not going to tell people, well, you know, I got this big because of roids and lifted. You know what I mean? If you ask him a fucking question, he's going to give you a stupid answer. And people would take that
it's more
shit.
entertaining because
Yeah.
you probably get people asking you the same shit all the time. So
Yeah.
you got to like mix it up to entertain
He would
yourself.
he would fucking say crazy shit and tell crazy stories and would fucking lie basically, but it was not really lying maliciously, but make shit up.
At least he wasn't
to-
telling
to
them
fucking-
to put rat poison in
No,
their drink.
no, but he'd give you fucking bum information and bum
To see if you would
advice
do it.
just to see if you'd do it. You know what I mean? Because you're an idiot by asking him. You know what I mean? That's.
I can see that. I
Yeah.
can see like getting so sick of people asking the same shit all the time that you just like start telling them. Like,
Arnold came out with
ridiculous
this
crap.
this video. It's this movie, and it's selling this diet called the Game Changer, and it's about vegetarianism, okay, and how vegetarianism is a superior diet, and all the gladiators in Rome are vegetarians, and fucking elephants are vegetarians, and fucking lions are vegetarians, or whatever. Lions aren't vegetarians.
I was gonna
but
say
whatever.
lions are not
And
vegetarians.
that, because they're vegetarian, you can get fucking big, It's all fucking bullshit. Arnold didn't get big from vegetarianism. Fucking Arnold sat around eating fucking meat and taking lots of steroids.
Yeah.
Lots of fucking protein. Very high protein diet.
I mean, I know that there are some bodybuilders who are vegetarians and vegans.
There's a lot of fake vegetarians.
I'm not-
and
yeah,
fake
I'm not
vegan
sure if-
bodybuilders.
I'm
You
not
see-
sure if they actually are.
No.
Or they're just saying that.
No, they're saying that.
It's hard
They're-
to say. I'm not in their kitchen. I'm not watching.
They're
them
just
eat,
saying
so.
that mostly. If they're a vegetarian can get protein products from cream and cheese, and they can eat whey protein. That's okay. You could do that. I guess you could do that. But purely vegetarian, you know what I mean? Some people would, like vegan. You can't gain any muscle on that, I don't believe. That'd be
You'd
dangerous.
have to eat like a lot of nuts and a lot of
And then-
stuff like that.
But then once you do that, to get the protein you need, you have to take in lots and lots of calories.
Because
of
once
that
you
shit.
can't eat eggs and all that other
Right.
kind of stuff, it really.
You're right.
I'm not saying it can't be done. I'm just saying it's really difficult.
Right, and gladiators were not vegetarians. Gladiators were fucking slaves. Okay, they fed them whatever they had on hand.
Yeah, they probably just had to eat
because they
whatever.
were going to kill a lot of them. Fucking, within the next few weeks. Most gladiators were cannon fodder gladiators. They fucking didn't live long. The famous gladiators they stayed around for a long time because their owners didn't want them killed in the ring. All right, and they had huge fan bases.
Yeah.
So usually they fought to a defeat, and then they were allowed to go back and they'd heal them up, you know what I mean, and sew them back up. Those particular celebrity gladiators actually had a good survival rate, and they were making shit tons of money, and they ate the finest of fucking food that Rome had to offer because their owners were making a shit ton of money off of them.
Yeah.
Because another thing that they would do with those famous gladiators is pimp them out. They pimp them out to fucking wealthy women.
Yeah.
All right, because it was huge they were huge celebrities, and it was like a big thrill for noble women to go screw some gladiator because he was like a bad boy.
Gladiator D.
Yeah. Well, they were criminals and criminals and captured soldiers, from some enemy barbarian armies, and they kind of had that bad boy mystique, and they were famous.
Yeah.
So, they made money off them in all these different ways. Well, those guys were not vegetarians. They ate well. So a lot of the premises in that video are not true. If you're a vegetarian and you want to be a bodybuilder, we're talking about bodybuilder level performance, vegetarian would be difficult. It'd be so much better. Why not just become if you're worried about the damn little fluffy fuzzy animals and shit, which I can understand that, become a pescatarian.
Yeah. Because fish is actually one of the best proteins anyway.
Yeah. Highly concentrated, low calorie protein, very free of fat. Fish, shrimp, crab, shellfish, all that shit can build a fantastic physique. That's just pure unadulterated, high concentrated protein, low calorie. That's the way to go.
Yeah.
And eating a shrimp's like eating a robot. Doesn't matter. They're mindless.
Or like a bug.
Like a
Well,
bug.
that's what
It's a
they are.
sea bug.
They're bugs.
Eat that.
Even though they're delicious. I love
They're
shrimp.
fucking delicious.
I love shrimp.
Yeah.
I can eat my own weight in boiled shrimp.
Yeah.
honestly.
Because we got Sophie. She's a vegan, and she's working out. She's trying to get bigger and bigger. And more stronger. And I'm just telling her, I said, man, that's not really the way to go. You need to get some of that. So she's eating pea protein. The green pea protein.
Yeah.
That's better than no protein at all. But I don't think it's as concentrated as whey protein in terms of
Like I
caloric
said,
stuff.
I feel like maybe you would probably have to eat a lot of nuts and things of that
Yeah, but then
nature.
your calories
But
will
yeah,
get
nuts
too
are
high.
kind of, well, depending on what kind of nuts you eat. Like, because some nuts, like peanuts and cashews and stuff like that, are very fatty.
You're trying to eat as little calories as possible, but as many fucking building blocks as possible. So in other words, you're trying to almost kind of be in a slightly caloric deficit to get ripped, but you have to have enough fucking muscle or enough protein to build muscle.
Yeah.
So it has to be very high protein, low fat, all right, very low calorie. So, man, fish, that's the best. And they had a bodybuilder, I think it was back in the 70s, who was a pescatarian, and that dude was fucking huge. And he was motherfucker walking around smelling like Aquaman. Fucking, you know what I mean? Creature from the black, shit just fucking coming out of his pores and shit, like king of the sea and shit. Because you eat nothing but fucking fish, you're going to smell like fish. They just do.
Probably.
It comes out of your pores.
Although I have to say that if somebody came along and told me that I could only eat one type of meat for the rest of my life, it
Shrimp.
would probably be fish.
No, shrimp.
Yeah.
I could eat
shrimp
shrimp
or fish. It was just
shrimp
shit out of this, like,
Yeah.
seafood.
Yeah.
I mean, I would miss, like, turkey and beef and chicken and stuff, but if somebody told me that was, I could only eat one type of meat, it would be seafood.
If they told me only one kind of meat and it was all about flavor, it would be beef. But if I factored in health, it would be shrimp.
Yeah.
If I could have all the shrimp I wanted, yeah, I would just eat shrimp.
Cause shit, man, whenever we would go to like the Chinese all-you-can-eat buffet, I would always, the best days to go, because they always had like shrimp and mussels and stuff like that, and I'd always get like a bunch of that. But the best days when we were there was the days when they had a whole bunch of fish stuff.
Yeah.
A whole bunch of seafood. They had like little squid and...
Eating all the shrimp you can.
And then I would go around looking for every single fish dish that they had and have a little bit of that. We should probably take a break, I would think. Yeah, because we've already gone an hour and 20 minutes or hour and 15 minutes, something like that. So when we come back, we're going to talk about the golden age of bodybuilding. Arnold Schwarzenegger, all that kind of stuff. Pumping iron, all that kind of stuff.
It's a good time in history. I've grown up seeing these guys going, wow. Yeah. Wow. Look at
I'm going to
dudes.
look like that one day.
No, never happened.
I know.
Never happened.
I'm doing historic revisionism.
Yeah.
All right, so we're going to take a break and we'll be back in just a couple minutes. Okay, so remember how I told you that Beijing brings little babies out in the middle of the night? Here's her handiwork from last night. Okay, there's the first two. Little fox and little bat. And then, here's the second set. And there's Pookie. Being like, what the hell? Yeah, she left two here. Little witch and little monster. And then two right there. There might be some in the guest room too. I haven't looked. What's up, Pookie? Did you see that Beijing left all the babies? Maybe it summoned Pookie.
That's last night. It was like, well, we got whiskey too. We have to.
Hi, Pookie. What are you doing? Yeah. You just chilling on your back with your little tail wagging? Yeah. You're awful cute. She's like, why are you filming me? This is like the most natural thing in the world. Yeah? What do you have to say about that? What do you have to say about that, Pookie? Not much? Okay. Look at his little belly. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Yeah. Okay. You're so funny. Little tail.
You love true crime. I love true crime. And I've spent the last 3 years compiling a series of the most intriguing unsolved murders of the 20th century. It's called The Faceless Villain, and Volume 3 is available now. Featuring such fascinating cases as the Ketty murders, the Carrie Babies case, the Frog Boys, the Alcasar murders, and the Inokashira Park dismemberment incident, The Faceless Villain Volume 3 is an involving exploration of unsolved slayings spanning the years from 1980 to 1999. Pick up your copy in print or ebook formats on Amazon, or download the audiobook version from audible.com, and get ready for a chilling journey through modern crime history. All right, we're back talking about the history of bodybuilding.
Yeah. We never did tell him what happened to Eugen Sandow.
What happened to him?
Died.
Well, that's what happens to most people.
He
There's
was-
another T-shirt right there.
He
That's
died.
what he died. That's
He
what
died.
happens to most people.
He was he ran his car off into the ditch. It was some old heavy ass car that he had, and he got underneath one of the car wheels and lifted the car up out of the ditch, or part of the car out of the ditch, and then drove off and seemingly died later, possibly a brain aneurysm. But he was older when he did
From
that.
lifting the car.
From lifting the car. That's what they think.
I remember you telling me that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
from lifting the car. His wife wouldn't let him back in the house.
Because of all the shenanigans.
He did some kind of shenanigans that he did some kind of shenanigans
and
that
chicanery.
that they didn't want to talk about, and they wouldn't tell the press. So it's kind of been surmised that he was doing something bad, either with men or women. Probably involved money and
Or both. Or,
Yeah.
at the same time. Sure.
yeah, she wouldn't talk about it. So it's been surmised that it was gay stuff.
Ew.
Yeah, gay stuff. So they decided they didn't want to talk about it.
Back in the 50s. That's how everyone
It wasn't
was like-
50s.
Oh,
It
that
was-
would have been
It's
earlier.
yeah, it was more like 30s.
30s.
Something like that.
Yeah.
He was older, but I think the breakup happened, like a decade before that.
Right.
So it happened when he was younger, and he got kind of estranged from his wife. But it's never really been solved what the problem was.
Everyone's just assuming.
They're assuming.
Probably, because it was the 1930s and
Yeah.
that's what you would think, because
Yeah.
that shit wasn't okay back then for whatever reason.
Right. Because some people have surmised, well, if it was a woman, she would have said.
Right.
You know what I mean? Or tolerated it. Because I think that was kind of okay back in those days.
I mean, I don't know if it was
Cheat on-
okay, but it's kind of like nothing the women
wasn't a
could
big
really
deal.
do. They couldn't really do anything about it.
Yeah, but they couldn't do anything about it. But I think it was kind of there's a lot of cultures where it's kind of expected.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like Brazil was kind of like, oh well, yeah, they just do that. Men do that.
That's what dudes do.
Yeah, that's what men do.
They just stick their dick in anything.
Yeah, the women by that time they don't care.
Other women.
They're like, at least it's not me.
apple pies,
At least it's not me.
electrical sockets,
yeah.
whatever.
Yeah,
Fleshlights.
yeah. No, when I was in Brazil back in the '80s, I was a kid, but the culture there, it was just like older guys, in their 50s and shit. They all had mistresses, and the wife was thankful.
She's like, good. At least
Yeah,
he's
at
out
least-
of he's out of
exactly.
my hair.
Exactly.
At least he's not in my house making a mess.
Yeah. No, it's like at least I don't have to have sex with him.
Well, that too.
Yeah, that's
also a plus.
right. You got to look at it realistically. At least I don't have to have sex with him. That's usually what was going
Yeah,
on.
go bang whoever.
Yeah, go.
It's
Yeah.
like if you
take
got
it out on her.
That's probably exactly what it is. We're so
Yeah.
true.
Yeah.
It's like,
That's why, all these people get all upset. All those men, this. Usually, in most cultures that do that, like that was your attitude. Most cultures that do that, the women don't give a shit. They're thankful. They're thankful.
Yeah, like I said, at least he's not hanging around like fucking, being a pain in my ass.
Yeah, they get to shop all day.
I don't enjoy shopping as a leisure activity.
Brazilian women did back in the '80s.
I mean,
It
a
was
lot of people do, I guess, but it's like I don't know. I never.
Shop, go get their nails done.
I guess
go to
because
the-
I grew up poor, so it's
Yeah.
kind of like I never got that.
No, shop, get their nails done, go to the spa, get their hair cut, fucking get pampered and shit, fucking go to cafes all day and have waiters fucking serve them and shit. That's just, that was Brazilian culture for the rich people.
Not saying I wouldn't like to
Yeah.
get a massage or something one of these
Oh, yeah.
days, but
Yeah.
I don't really enjoy
That's all they did.
shopping as a leisure
No.
activity.
Brazilian rich girls fucking and rich women just lived pampered lives.
I like
Fucking
just
through
I
there.
like to just go and get what I need and get the fuck out of there.
Yeah. So do rich women in the Middle East. They're just fucking pampered, man.
Yeah.
Diamonds and jewelry and fucking, yeah. Yeah, it's not... I'm sure they all don't live like that, you know what I mean?
Well,
but fucking, the
obviously.
real rich ones, no, they're fucking living in paradise. And they might have like a lot of wives too, you know what I mean? Like sister wives, like
Yeah.
Mormons, you know what I mean? It's funny, you know what I mean? They were talking about the Middle East, they have all them wives. They have that here, it's just that nobody talks about
Mormons have that too.
it. Yeah, just go to Mormon territory. They say it doesn't happen, but there's a lot of it going on.
Yeah, it's like just because you legally can't marry
Yeah.
more than one person,
Doesn't
that
mean it's
doesn't
not
mean that
happening.
it's not going on.
Well, they're going to say, well, that's breakaway sects. You know, I said sex is always breakaway. No, they're going to say that's just these breakaway Mormon cults. But actually, they're reading it right. That's what
Well,
was
yeah,
written.
that's what the
what's
shit
in the
says,
Book of
and
Mormon.
that's what
Right.
it says in the
Right.
crazy book that was on the gold plates from the aliens or whatever the fuck it was.
Yeah, the Book of Mormon and Mormonism. I had friends who were Mormons. They're fucking great. They do what they want to do. That's their culture. They were always kind of respectable people from the ones that I knew. All good-looking people, because I think it's all that selective breeding that they were doing. But they were good-looking. If you research the history, I don't know why I'm talking about Mormonism on a damn fucking bar. It was a copy of
Because
Islam.
this is what happens.
It was a copy of Islam. A lot of the elements in Mormonism is lifted right out of the Quran.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why it's like that.
Somebody told us we should do a whole show on Mormonism, which
I'd love to.
We probably should one of these days.
Yeah, that's a trip religion, man. You know what I mean? It's very Gnostic. And they had a lot of rituals that really outsiders didn't see. A lot of singing and dancing, these rituals, especially back in the 80s. I don't know if they're still doing it now. But like some of it leaked. Dressing up in all these fucking special suits and singing songs, and men and women together singing these songs and reenacting stuff. It was, it makes sense to Mormons. It just looks like Baptist Christian stuff. It's just mixed with like Scientology.
Yeah.
You
That's
know?
kind of, yeah, well, that's
Kinda
kind
like
of
that.
how that always kind of struck me. Is like it
Yeah.
had like a weird culty kind of thing on top of it, but in a lot of ways it was just like a weird fundamentalist sect.
There's a good cartoon about Mormonism that the Mormons made explaining Mormonism, try to get more. It's on
watched
YouTube.
that. We watched
Yeah.
that, didn't we? I watched
Yeah,
it.
about different stories about Jesus and Mary, and if you're a good enough Mormon, you're going to get your own planet. You'll be God over that planet in
I
heaven.
want my own planet.
It's kind of like the bridge. You know what I mean? The
That's very
Scientologists call it the bridge. Yeah,
Scientology-esque.
yeah.
It's like an alien.
What was his name? It's not Brigham Young. What was his name? Joseph Smith.
Yeah.
Is the one that wrote all that, I believe.
Yeah.
And Joseph Smith had a fucking wild imagination. Fucking talking to the angel Moroni, and fucking had special fucking glasses that could read tablets that were given to him, and he's behind a curtain and dictating them all out. Well, that sounds an awful lot like Muhammad talking to the damn angel Jibril or Gabriel and reciting the Quran. That's very much that same. I think he was inspired by that story.
Or he ripped it off. I mean, you could put it
Well, that's
that
the same
way, too.
thing.
Yeah. I was inspired by it.
Yeah, and then the whole thing about having multiple wives, and that's Islam.
Well, yeah, he probably read about that and he's like, oh, I like that. I'm
Yeah.
putting that in my shit.
Well, you have a wife, but then you want a girlfriend, so you got to have a justification for that. Really, that's in Christianity too.
Yeah.
The
Well,
whole,
yeah, like a lot of the
lot of
like
Christians-
Old Testament shit. Yeah, that was all.
Well, no, Charlemagne had a bunch of wives, and he
Yeah.
was a part of the Holy Roman. He was the fucking emperor of the Holy Roman Empire. This idea that Christians only had one wife, that's a modern concept.
It is, yeah.
Throughout the Middle Ages and everything, there were certain Christians that had many wives, because it doesn't say in the New Testament that you can't do it, and in the Old Testament it
it's
says
not
you can.
expressly forbidden.
Right, it's not forbidden.
And
So-
hey, you're allowed to have a whole bunch of cows.
Right.
You're allowed to have a whole bunch of wives too.
Yeah, well, actually, if you actually interpret it, really, it's you. Marriage is not between a man and a woman. A marriage is between a man, a woman, a woman, a woman, a woman, and another
Yeah.
woman. It's your wife. It's your wife and all her servants. And who else? Your brother's wife. If he dies, you get that
get
one,
that
and,
one
and
too.
all her
Yeah.
servants. Just I don't remember all the whole rules, but it's just a man and a whole bunch of fucking women. That's what.
Yeah.
So don't let.
Well,
let
like I
him-
said, you can tell some man wrote that shit.
Well, a man's gonna man. He's gonna do. Wouldn't you?
There's another.
If you
Well,
were a
I
man,
wouldn't because I'm.
if you were a man, you wouldn't write it like that. I
well,
would.
I don't know. I'm not a man, and I
It's-
don't know what your thought process.
I'd be like, you can have this one, and you can have this one, and this one isn't it? Because you.
Well, most women would not write that because it's like one man is more than enough. You don't really need
Women
more
aren't
than
interested
one.
in that shit
That's
anyway.
what I mean. It's
women
like
don't care about that.
it's like one man is enough of a pain. It's like you don't need more than one.
Back in those days, women mostly just had most of their time was basically taken up providing for children. That's
Yeah.
you had to clean shit.
That's what I
make
mean. We were
houses,
fucking busy.
and fucking
Don't got time for
pick
that shit.
fruit and do shit and make sure that all the babies are being fed. You don't have time to worry about harems.
Yeah, that's what I mean. So we have
Yeah.
practical concerns.
Yeah.
We don't have time to be like.
You're
fucking
not out there
gallivanting
building
about-
empires and fucking kicking people's asses and getting more territory. There's no time for that when you're a woman. And back in those days, there was no birth control. You didn't just have one child. You probably had 5 of them.
Yeah, and then like by the
Yeah.
time you had that many, it's like you were fucking tired, man.
Yeah, you were too tired to do any of that conquest.
too
and
tired
shit.
of that
And literally, they're telling a dude to get the fuck out of here.
Yes.
Get out of here.
Just go conquer
Get the
some shit.
fuck-
Just
yeah.
get out of my face.
Yeah. Let's get back to the golden age of bodybuilding.
You're like leaving socks all over the fucking
Yeah, that's
house.
right,
I
yeah.
can't fucking take it.
Yeah.
But yeah. All right. So we were talking about how bodybuilding first started to come into like a kind of more mainstream acceptance, I guess, in the mid 1960s when they started coming out like, on TV and shit like that.
Muscle
Now-
Beach had a lot to do with it.
Yeah, I was
too.
going to say Muscle Beach and Santa Monica. Now, prior to the mid 1960s, there were like a couple kind of famous gyms, mostly in California. But until Gold's Gym opened, like as a chain, like in the mid 1960s, there wasn't like, you know, a nationwide kind of like chain of gyms. But Gold's Gym was the first one to do that kind of thing.
Yeah. Now, during this time in the comic books, that's when you started seeing in the comic books like ads for like showing a little wimpy guys getting sand kicked in the
Yeah,
face.
98-pound
And if you
weaklings.
buy this fucking things, you'll use dynamic tension to get huge. And Charles Atlas, his name was Charles Atlas's dynamic tension method, and which was bullshit, kinda.
Well,
Like bullshit.
it's sold in a comic book.
It's
I
sold
mean,
in a comic
how awesome
book.
could
And
it
then
be?
right next to that, they'd have something for the Black Dragon Society, fucking Count Dante and shit. Fucking his magic fucking...
And then
death
sea
touches
monkeys,
and shit.
and then there's sea monkeys.
And sea
right
monkeys.
underneath.
Yeah. Sea monkeys.
Sea monkeys and X-ray glasses.
I bought sea monkeys. And it was brine shrimp eggs.
Well, they're brine shrimp.
and I was never patient enough to get them to hatch. You got to aerate the water and fucking use special salt and shit. And it tells you don't use tap water, but you're a little kid, you're going to use tap water.
It's like, where the fuck else am I going to get
Chlorine
water
kills
from?
them all. And then you're putting the fucking aeration thing for, you know, to blow air bubbles
Yeah.
in it, you know what I mean? And then like fucking 2 hours later, you're like, where the fucking monkeys? And you tell them, takes weeks, you know?
Where are my sea
Where the
monkeys?
fucking monkeys?
Where
Yeah.
is the family?
Yeah.
This
As soon
is
as they
bullshit.
showed up and they showed up in that little vial, my dad goes, that's brine shrimp eggs. And he goes, you bought brine shrimp? Sea monkeys. My dad laughing at me. And he was getting live brine shrimp and feeding them to his damn fucking saltwater. He had that damn turkey fish or whatever you call that thing, tiger fish.
A turkey fish?
I don't know. It was this damn fish that was orange with red stripes on it, and it had these fucking poisonous spines coming off of it. It was a saltwater fish.
Kind of like a lionfish.
Lionfish. That's
Yeah,
what it's called. I
it's a
called it a
lionfish.
tiger fish.
He had a lionfish?
Yeah, he had a lionfish.
Ooh, they're beautiful.
He had a lionfish and sea anemones and a fucking little clownfish that would live in the sea anemone and shit.
Neat.
And he goes, you should have told me you wanted those. I got a whole... You know, let me do my dad's voice.
Yeah, you gotta do your dad's
You
voice.
should have told me you wanted those. I got a whole bucket of them things live underneath the damn aquarium.
There's your sea monkeys right
There's
there.
the sea monkeys right there. Give me them eggs. Pouring the eggs on the fucking... They eat them up. You know, it's like, you know... Yeah.
Well, that was when you learned that advertising was bullshit. I feel like
Yeah.
that's how every kid learned that.
Yeah, but to add... Now, if any of you guys grew up during that era... Yes, there was a Black Dragon Fighting Society. We did a show on him. That was Count Dante, and he was a fucking crazy fucking dude. Who tried to rob banks, you know, fucking was hanging out with the organized crime and blew up a fucking dojo and did all kinds
He
of shit.
did.
It was down in Chicago.
And somebody got stabbed with a sword and
Yeah.
they died.
And Charles Atlas got fucking sued for that damn advertisement with the getting huge, the dynamic tension thing, because it alluded that he got big by using dynamic tension. You can't get too big by using... Dynamic tension is just push-ups, basically.
Yeah.
Push-ups and sit-ups. And like dips.
Yeah.
There's always going to be a limit to how big you can get with that. But,
Well, it did.
Yeah.
What was his argument? He's like, I didn't say I got big like that. I'm just saying maybe you could get big like that.
the way
if you do a whole bunch of other things as well.
the way the way the ad was worded, he
Yeah.
does say that he used that method.
that.
But I don't think it was. I think that might have been settled. I'm not sure. I think it might have been settled out of court. I don't remember the details.
Because I do kind of think, because even nowadays in advertising copy, you can get around certain laws by wording
it
things
the right
a
way.
particular way.
He didn't word it the right way, and
Yeah.
it did evidently say that he got big by using his method.
Yeah.
All right.
Which,
He
like
got
I
big.
said, you could say that as long as you didn't imply that was the only thing that you did.
Yeah. Charles Atlas got big by fucking lifting real big fucking heavy weights and probably taking anabolic steroids. I haven't seen him, but probably steroids.
I haven't seen Charles Atlas either.
He's pretty big.
Actually, when I saw those ads when I was a kid, I didn't even think that was a real
Another
person.
thing is like some guys will say, "Oh, I'm all natural," during that era where it's kind of the gray area. They might have been natural for a long time, but then anabolic steroids became available, and then they took them then too.
Yeah.
So it's hard to say, you know what I mean? Just because you were natural at one time, that doesn't mean you were always natural.
Well, the thing
Yeah.
about it is steroids weren't really technically illegal until, what, 1990? Something like that?
No, they were. Well, you can still get them.
I mean,
I think you can get them with a prescription in Florida.
you can, but I'm just saying you can't, like, buy them just...
But from what I've heard, that's going on here is that you can go here in Florida. They have these little fucking doctor's offices where they call them male wellness treatment place, and you get TRT.
See, like I said, it's all about the wording.
It's all about the wording. You get, and they do it cookie cutter fashion. They give you fucking testosterone replacement therapy, and then they give you some other like mood enhancement shit, and then they give you something that I think might be Anavar, which is fucking steroids.
Yeah.
And it's just like a cookie cutter thing, and they'll fucking give it to you. Florida's not uptight about it. It's state by state.
Mood enhancement. This is my mood enhancement.
Well, no, you gotta have something to keep you from getting roid rage. So they have a drug for
yeah,
that.
because you're going to go around, like, throwing people's heads through a wall and shit like that.
Yeah, mood stabilizers. It's like a mood stabilizer.
Yeah, it's like, stop being such a fucking
Yeah.
roided out bitch, motherfucker.
And then back in the day, they didn't use that shit. They just take the steroids and fucking get mean.
And just be like, like a fucking cartoon character. But yeah, so now we're getting into the 70s.
Like on that Superman
said.
Red Sun,
Yeah, there you
when
go.
Superior Man shows up, he was
Yeah.
fucking roiding out, roid raging, bad, fighting fucking Russian
I love
Superman.
that they call him as soon as they said, like, as soon as Lex Luthor like called it, he's like, he's Superior Man, and I was
Yeah.
like, of course.
He's
Of course,
fighting
that's
fucking Russian Superman. I hate you. I'll kill you. Glitching out and shit. Ah! Yeah.
That was pretty
Got
funny.
bigger. He got bigger too, and he turned into like a gorilla. He got so mad he got bigger. Remember that?
Yeah.
But then he died.
Yeah. So, pretty accurate.
Yeah. What's wrong with you? I don't know. That's a good cartoon, man. Go see Red Sun.
It was really good. Yeah,
really good.
Superman Red Sun.
Yeah, the communist Superman.
The Communist Superman, yeah, it was actually really good. It's animated. So now we're getting to the 1970s, the golden age of bodybuilding. And this is, like I said, when it started to go mainstream, because this, 1977, was when Pumping Iron came out.
Yeah. Good movie, but I've never seen it. I've only seen a bunch
I've
of
seen it.
I've only seen a bunch of clips from
seen
it.
it.
I've got to see it. That's like supposed to be that should be like required watching. That should be required. I should see that one, but I haven't seen it. I've only seen clips from it.
It's probably, I think it's free on YouTube for real.
Is
It's
it?
like, you should probably watch it.
All right.
I mean, I saw it free somewhere, but either there or on Tubi. But yeah, it's
The
like
clips look fucking hilarious.
yeah, that's kind of where it's mostly centered around the competition. It's like Arnold Schwarzenegger, it's Lou Ferrigno, and like their kind of rivalry. And then there's like some others. Franco Columbu is on there, and some other people. So it's kind of like just like a documentary about like the lead up to that competition and like them like shit talking each other and like training and all this other kind of shit. And then there's like a bunch of like behind the scenes stuff.
Yeah.
Not just shit talking, but also like Arnold like smoking pot and doing.
Yeah, it was supposed to be. It's actually kind of like the first attempt at like reality TV, except it's a movie.
Yeah,
and it's not 100% legit. Evidently, they got Arnold to be a dick, is more often to make the movie
it's more entertaining.
More
sure.
entertaining, yeah.
Just like they do on talk shows and
Yeah.
reality TV
Yeah.
nowadays.
Yeah.
They just make everyone mad.
I gotta
so
see it. I gotta
Everyone's
see it.
just acting like assholes because everybody
Yeah.
wants to see people acting like assholes or like
Yeah.
acting crazy. Nobody wants.
That's why
to see...
if I was a fucking total dick and went fucking crazy all the time on this show, we'd have fucking millions of subscribers. I'd have fucking like 2 million subscribers. I'd be picking fights with other channels and shit. That's,
Maybe that's
they get all kinds of fucking subscribers.
maybe that's why we don't have that many.
Yeah. 'Cause
Although, well, no, because that's not entirely true. Because a lot of this, because I don't like that kind of shit. So I don't watch it. But a lot of the shows that I like that are not like that, I have like 100,000 subscribers, shit like that. So that's not necessarily.
It may not work anymore, but back in the day, if you picked a fight with another channel, you could get a lot of subscribers.
Yeah, and I do feel like there was a time when like the douchier you were, like the more subscribers because everyone just wanted to like hate watch.
A hate watch is still a click though. It's
True.
still watching. They're still paying you.
True.
Yeah.
Well, they might not be paying you, but you might get like,
it depends on if it's monetized or not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not that kind of person, and it's like I don't enjoy that.
Yeah.
So I feel like that would stress me out even more, like
Yeah.
producing something of that nature. Because it wouldn't be like what I'm really like.
Right.
You know what I mean?
It'd be fake.
Yeah, exactly. So at this stage, like when Pumping Iron came out and it was like a really big success, Arnold Schwarzenegger hadn't been in any movies at this time, although Lou Ferrigno had kind of... This was right around the time that he was in the Hulk, right? Or it was like a little bit after this?
Before.
Yeah.
I think it was
Because when was
before.
the Hulk? That was like
Hulk,
70,
yeah.
late 70s?
No.
Pumping Iron was 1977.
Must have been about 78, 79.
Yeah, so maybe it was like
79.
shortly after this came out. So this was kind of like a big cultural thing because it really kind of introduced particularly these two actors. And then you had the IFBB, which Joe Weider had started, and they kind of took over as like being like the main competitive bodybuilding like outfit, you know what I mean? And like the other ones kind of like fell behind. Although they did have another one called the National Physique Committee, and they kind of like got to be a big deal as well. And they do like the amateur version, I guess, of the IFBB, because IFBB, I guess they do Mr. Olympia, and then this other one like does the amateur division. So let's talk a little bit about, because the 70s were right around the time when steroid use started to become more widespread. And in the 70s, it seemed like bodybuilders talked a lot more openly about it. Because like I said, there wasn't a stigma about it. It was essentially, as far as I know, it was pretty much legal everywhere.
There isn't a stigma in most of the world.
Yeah.
Europe and the Middle East, they just fucking straight up take it.
Yeah, and I feel like in the US in the 70s it was kind of like everybody kind of did it and everybody talked about it, and it wasn't
they didn't have like a black PR campaign about it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It wasn't any shame about it or like, that's cheating. It's not cheating. You still got to lift that weight.
Yeah, it's not like you just take it and just
sit around and
boink.
get bit. Yeah. No, you still got to lift
and
a
it
lot of
just
weight.
magically like turns you into that.
Steroids just help you heal up all that damage that you're doing by lifting.
Yeah.
All this tearing up now the body's response is to heal up quickly and then grow. You know what I mean? Which it makes it easier. You couldn't do that without it. You'd be spending all the time healing.
Well, yeah, because when you don't take steroids, I mean, you can really only work out hard
after you're healed and everything's
every
grown.
few days. You know what I mean? It's not
depending
like
on your age.
Depending on how old.
Depending on how old you are. Fucking good steroids, you can have... Okay, here's something that a lot of people have to understand. If you don't have much muscle mass, in other words, your muscles are small, you can work out and you will get sore quickly, very quickly. And you don't have to lift real heavy weight. But because you don't have much muscle mass, it recovers and grows back very quickly because it's not much muscle to repair. If you got big muscles, you got to fucking lift a lot of weight. It's got to be very intense. And it fucking fucks up that muscle and gets it real so it'll be sore later, right? Well, it's still the same. You're still the same metabolism, but now you got to heal up 30 times the amount of muscle that a little skinny person has to heal up. That's very taxing on the system. So instead of recovering in 2 days, it might take a week or 8 days to heal all that up. Well, you don't have time for that. You'll get smaller. You know what I mean? You've got to be healed up in 12 hours or 24 hours. to get back in there and do it again inside that gym. That's where all this, gaining 20 pounds over what your maximum genetic limit is, that's where that's all coming from.
Yeah.
The ability to heal everything and to grow constantly. So the bigger you are, the more weight you need, the more sore you're going to get, and the longer it's going to take to heal that up. You need the steroids to fucking reduce that recovery time.
Yeah. I feel like that's probably largely what they're using it for, yeah? Because
Yeah,
it's just
recovery.
Like, yeah.
When those guys are fucking jacked to the gills, man, they can go in there and just tear it all up, the whole body, go to sleep, and 12 hours later, they're ready to do it again.
Yeah.
Not only did they heal up, they've gotten bigger, slightly. So you can't do that with a normal metabolism.
Yeah.
Not with that much muscle mass.
True.
So this shit's like fucking super soldier serum. It's like that damn machine Captain America came out of in that movie. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
That little skinny didn't he go BAM like that, right? Except you have to lift weights to do it. And it happens fast. Supernaturally fast.
Yeah.
So it's not normal.
But yeah, so I do feel
It's
like...
a hell of a drug though.
Yeah, well,
think
that's...
of it, think of that.
Yeah.
Think of the logistics of that. How much healing is happening and growing. It's amazing. It's why they give it to people who get hurt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and that was, I mean, the widespread use of steroids in the 1970s was kind of what contributed to, through the 80s and 90s and stuff like that, like particularly the Mr. Olympia competition, the focus becoming more on just these huge dudes, like people just getting bigger and bigger and bigger, because I guess they were trying to push the envelope of like how large they could get, with the steroid enhancement. You know,
Probably
what I mean?
the biggest one they ever got during that time was in the 90s. He got fucking huge late night. Ronnie Coleman.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. He was on the
Ronnie
documentary.
Coleman he proved his fucking point. I respected his game.
He won 8 times, I think, in a row.
He got big as a fucking car. He's huge. But you know what I mean? Just because you have all that muscle and you have to lift all that weight to tear it up so you can grow, it's not good on your skeleton. I mean, that guy's spine is just shot.
Yeah.
I feel sorry for me. Last time I saw him, he could barely walk. He's trying to, and he'll never be as big as he was. It's fun to get big, but then having to get small again, and then he's in there working out, and he's nowhere near as big as he used to be. Because of, skeletal problems, and just his system is fucked up. He might recover. It will take a long time, probably. But he'll never be as big as he was. I mean, a human being can't be that big.
He was one of the first guys to really, because like I said, I'm pretty sure, if I'm remembering it correctly, I'm pretty sure that he won Mr. Olympia 8 years in a row.
Yeah.
And he was one of the first guys to push the 300-pound limit.
It was amazing.
I mean, you had guys like, in the 70s, you had Schwarzenegger and stuff like that. In the 80s, you had like Lee Haney and people like that. Then in the 1990s, you start seeing like Ronnie Coleman, Dorian Yates, like these really, really huge dudes. Like I said, getting up to like 280, 290 pounds.
Yeah.
Which was like unprecedented. You know what I mean?
The problem is that they looked pretty good on stage doing a routine. You put clothes on them and they looked funny. They looked real short. Looked like big old Oompa Loompas. They weren't aesthetic.
Yeah.
Like in the way Arnold looked good in clothes too. And it's just when you're as big as Ronnie Coleman and shit, you're gonna look funny in clothes. Just saying.
Yeah, and that's what we were saying before. It's like once you get to a certain point, it becomes strange looking.
Yeah.
And not, it doesn't really look all that attractive.
That's what
anymore.
the judges were picking, though.
Well, yeah, because it really did seem like throughout. I mean, a lot of the people that they interviewed for this particular documentary, and it's on YouTube if you want to watch it. It's BBC. It's just called History of Bodybuilding, I think. And it's almost 2 hours long. And I feel like a lot of people were saying that the 90s were probably, the heyday of Mr. Olympia and all that kind of stuff. But then, like, it started getting too much focus on size and not really, they were getting away from the focus on, like, people that actually looked good, that were, like, symmetrical, that actually, like, looked aesthetically pleasing.
Yeah. No, another thing that's funny about this era that we're talking about in bodybuilding, it was a lot like the same during that same era, the same thing was happening to martial arts.
Yeah.
You could make money with a dojo and going to competitions, and then you could make money with magazines and, you know what I mean, and like conventions. But over time, social media destroyed all that. Like, magazines are gone. Black Belt magazine, you know what I mean? It probably has 20 pages now, and probably nobody buys it. Black Belt magazine probably doesn't exist. Well, there used to be a whole bunch of fitness magazines. That's all gone. And muscle magazines, all gone. You
had Flex and all those kind of magazines.
And a lot of the same stuff that was going on in the bodybuilding scene that generated a lot of money, like these guys, it started to wane a lot because it all went to social media. You know? Why they don't need to do that anymore. They can just go on Instagram and take videos of themselves and sell fucking supplements and shit through Instagram. You know? They don't need magazines or anything anymore. So it's just, everything's changed.
Yeah, it really was. It used to be like a huge big deal, like to
get
get
big
into
business
magazines and
with
get into
big companies and big sponsors behind it. But you needed magazines for all that. You know, that's all gone.
Yeah. True.
So it's all social media. Some have said that it's actually bigger now than it used to be because of social media. It's just that the money's democratized now.
Yeah, it's like it's
not centralized in these companies.
One place, yeah.
Yeah.
Which, I can see that. And that's one thing that they were talking about at the end of the documentary, which, like I said, came out in 2015. And they were talking about how a lot of the competitions had gone online, so people were watching them, like, streaming and stuff like that. So they still have, like, a large audience, and there's, like, a lot of people still doing that. And the prize money is still it's still a lot.
Yeah.
But...
And instead of, like, watching Arnold do Commando or Conan the Barbarian and watching these guys in action flicks, you can now just watch them on YouTube fucking talking shit about each other and fucking making jokes. They all got their own channels and shit.
Yeah.
So they're not in movies anymore. They're all YouTubers. Kind of fascinating how it evolved.
Yeah. But
they're making their own content.
Yeah.
You don't need camera crewmen or anything, And you don't need movies to make money off of being a muscular dude. Just get subscribers and patrons.
Well, yeah, as long as you got, like, fucking some media savvy and you're kind of, like, charismatic and stuff. Sure. Yeah. You can do all kind of shit.
It's kind of like reality TV.
Yeah.
So.
And like I said, it's like there's some people, like models and shit like that on Instagram that sell shit. And
they're making shit tons of money on fucking Instagram models.
I mean, not all of them are, obviously.
No, but some of them are making millions.
But yeah, some of them are making a lot of money.
And that's what a supermodel made anyway.
Yeah.
And a supermodel wasn't around for very long back in the day. Yeah. Lucky it would be a year or two. Some of these fucking Instagram models make $1 million around 4, 5, 6 years. Or if not longer.
Yeah. So, that's the thing. I feel like Schwarzenegger, obviously, he was probably taking steroids in the 70s because everyone was.
Yeah, he was.
And like I said, they weren't really stigmatized back then. But he actually wouldn't admit to it until after he had retired.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? All he would say was that, oh, well, you have to do anything to win the competition. That's kind of like all he would say.
But you can see pictures of him as a teenager. He's obviously on gear.
Yeah. But it's like, it's weird that he wouldn't say that he was on it until like later on. And then he was like, yeah. And then he just said that later that he was glad that he took it, or he didn't regret taking anything, but he just like wouldn't admit to it.
That made him who the man he was. He never would have been famous.
So they started doing, so the IFBB, they started instituting like, doping tests and stuff like that. Even though I'm sure like a lot of bodybuilders probably a way to get around that because a lot of them still take steroids. Obviously.
Probably just go off cycle and get it all out of your system.
I think that's technically what they're doing.
Yeah.
Because as far as I'm aware now, according to the Wikipedia page, it said that the Anabolic Steroid Control Act was 1990. So anabolic steroids are technically in Schedule 3 of the Controlled Substances Act. Meaning that they're not technically, I guess they're
a controlled substance.
They're a controlled substance. So it's like you can't just buy them like over the counter. You can't just buy them. You have to have like a prescription, blah, blah. But that's the thing. Some competitions have, I mean, obviously there are some bodybuilding competitions for like, natural bodybuilders, and, you can't take them for that. But I kind of feel like a lot of them just do it anyway. You know what I mean? And they just have some way to get around it. It's just kind of like people that, they have all these drug tests for jobs and shit like that, but there's all these ways to get around it.
Either that or they don't really test.
Yeah. Like you give people...
They pretend to test.
You give them like someone else's pee or some other kind of shit.
No, it could be that the organizations don't test.
Yeah, they might say they're
think
testing and they're not.
These guys, those guys that run those organizations don't give a shit about steroids. They were all on them.
And that's what I figure. It's like there's so much money in it.
Yeah.
Like, and particularly like during the time when they just wanted to see how big these dudes could get, and like that's what was bringing in the bucks. I feel like why would they want to shoot themselves in the dick like that?
I don't believe in any of that anti-steroid thinking. But you know what I mean? Those dudes all know what they're doing. They all know what the risks are. I think they're free to take any of that shit.
Yeah.
That doesn't make any difference to me. You know what I mean? If they want to do it, go and do it. All they're doing is fucking with their hormones, basically. Women have been fucking with their hormones and birth control forever, so they don't have kids. It's basically that simple. That same kind of thing. That's
the thing. It's like if you're gonna go that far, it's like, oh, men can't fuck with their testosterone. Then you're gonna say, oh, women can't take birth control.
Yeah, that's all it is.
Yeah.
So it's that same.
It's pretty much the same. It's
pretty much the same thing. So I don't understand why there's a problem with it. I can understand you don't want dumbass kids getting their hands on it and ODing on it, but the thing is that they OD on other shit anyway.
Well, and the thing is, we have laws for it. It's like, you can't have, like, underage drinking. Like, people drink underage, but you're not supposed to.
Yeah.
And you'll get in trouble if you do it.
Yeah.
So it's like, you can have laws like that to keep shit from getting into, like, the hands of kids and shit. But if you're an adult, and you have made an informed decision about, what the side effects are and all that other kind of crap, then I don't
see the problem.
Yeah, I don't really see a problem with people doing that to their own bodies.
I heard one dude say, I know that this might shorten my lifespan, but I'm going to give up a few years of life in exchange for a much better quality of life. I said, I want to feel better. I want to be bigger. I like to be big, and this shit makes me feel good. I'm going to do it. And, so he knew the risks, and I'm like, go ahead, man. You look good. Go ahead.
Well, yeah, that's what I mean. I don't really, it's just kind of like anything that if it's not hurting another person,
it's his right,
and it's your own body, and like I said, you're making an informed decision. You know what the side effects of the shit is. You know what it's gonna do. You know all this other stuff, and you choose to take it anyway. And there's nothing the matter with you or anything like that. Then I don't see any reason why you shouldn't.
It's biotechnology. Okay,
yeah.
we take all kinds of other drugs to extend the quality of our life or make our lives fucking better or longer. You know what I mean? Insulin, you know what I mean, to treat diabetes.
Right.
There's all this other shit you can do. Why can't you take something that makes you stronger?
Yeah, it's just
how is that wrong?
I mean, and everything has side effects. Even fucking aspirin has side effects for some people.
Yeah, but
where are you going to draw the line?
But they're willing to take those side effects though.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
And why can't a person volunteer to be like a research subject on fucking biotechnology? Why can't a guy say, you know what? I've never taken steroids before, but now that I'm 50, what would therapeutic doses of steroids do over the next 30 years? Will it soften the blow of my aging?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I want to try it. They passed that right to try, Bill. For all you know, you might stumble on some kind of a damn life extension therapy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because geriatrics lose a lot of muscle mass. They get weak, and they weaken, and they die. Shit like that might actually strengthen you. You might die still at 95 or 85, but who knows? You might look better.
Well, and you might have died earlier than that anyway.
You might have died earlier than that anyway.
There's no
you
way
might have
of
died
knowing.
at 75.
Yeah, there's no way of knowing.
And what if you died at 85, but you looked like a 65-year-old, and you were as strong as a fucking 55-year-old? That's still a pretty good trade-off.
Yeah.
And for all you know, like you said, maybe you extended your life by a few years.
Yeah, there's no way of knowing.
There's no way of knowing, but why not be involved in human testing?
Yeah.
You know?
Well, particularly once you get to a particular age.
You're old already.
Yeah, where it's
Yeah.
just kind of like, I kind of feel like if they want to do whatever the fuck they want to do, because they're like, hey, I only got 20, 30 years left anyway.
Let's see what this does.
And if something, and and if this is a good thing, and it could benefit other people also, because they might find some shit out and they can apply it to other people. People
they were just talking about the first dude that they send to Mars might be an old man, and it's a one-way trip.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? What's the difference? Because, you only got a few years left anyway. You might spend your last 10 years on Mars doing shit.
Yeah.
You're going to die anyway.
Doing shit on Mars.
And you want to be there for that last 10 years. You know what I mean? So...
They'd probably get some people to volunteer for that.
They were talking about it.
Yeah, I would think.
And, sure there'd be guys who go, yeah, I'll go.
Yeah.
I don't have any family. I only got 10. Yeah, I'll go to Mars.
That's what I mean.
Why not?
It's I just don't really see why.
Go out in a blaze.
Yeah.
Everybody
remember you.
Everybody remember you. Yeah, first man on Mars. Old man on Mars. Less gravity. Look at me. Less gravity.
That's another T-shirt now. I'm gonna make.
Old man on Mars.
I'm gonna make a T-shirt with just like the surface of Mars with like this little old coot.
Old man with a space helmet on. Space helmet on. Flexing in his spacesuit, planting an American flag in the ground.
Old, and then underneath
one-way trip, bitches.
Old man on Mars, and then it'll say one-way trip. All the fucking shirts we come up with for the show, and I never get around to designing them because I just never have
too
time.
many of them.
But it's like, it's funny to me to think that if like somebody wore that shirt and it's like no one would have any fucking clue
what the fuck you're talking about. Yeah.
That's like the most inside of inside jokes.
Yeah.
All right, so like I said, so they have the thing where they do the drug testing, or at least they say they do. Even though I don't believe it, because I've seen some of the last dudes that won Mr. Olympia, and there's no way they weren't taking steroids. But they do have... Now, does the Mr. Olympia competition, because I wasn't clear on this, do they have a natural bodybuilding
I don't know. I don't
thing, or is that like a whole separate competition?
I don't know. I don't keep up with it. I think
that's a whole separate competition. Because they have like all these different bodybuilding outfits, and they each have their own competition that you can compete in. And like some of them, like the natural bodybuilding ones, you're not supposed to take anything.
To tell you the truth, really, when I hear about the history of bodybuilding and like the fucking the professional shows and everything, only the ones from the 70s sound interesting to me, and that was before my time.
Yeah.
Because by the time I was old enough to even know what the fuck was going on in the 90s, that scene wasn't cool.
Yeah.
Like the mass monsters and shit, I didn't think they looked that good.
See, I didn't
And like
either.
I didn't really care. Nobody really cared about it.
And that's what I thought too when I was watching the documentary. Like the earlier shit I found like really, really interesting.
Yeah,
like
but
the
later
stuff up
stuff
until the
wasn't-
70s.
Yeah.
But then it does seem like now, because I think that the Mr. Olympia competition, they may have a natural category. For sure they have a men's physique category. They added that in 2013.
Yeah.
Which that was a direct reaction to the mass monster phenomenon, where everyone was saying that looks like ugly, and we're getting away from what Mr. Olympia started as, which was it was supposed to be like an aesthetic, a symmetrical, like a beautiful kind of like a representation of manhood.
Right.
It's getting into this thing where everybody just looks like these big lumpy ogres.
Yeah, no, you're supposed to look like a damn superhero.
Right.
That's what you're really, or a hood ornament / superhero.
Yeah.
And by the time the 90s had rolled around, that wasn't around anymore. And it wasn't a very popular scene, and there wasn't any kind of like household personalities that were driving that scene. You know what I'm talking about? In other words, you couldn't associate it with anybody that you knew.
Right.
I mean, like in the 70s, you knew Arnold and you knew Lou. And you know, Franco Colombo, you knew who those guys were.
Yeah.
And they had character, especially, Arnold. Arnold had a lot of character. But by the time the 90s were around, there wasn't any.
I feel like after the 90s, it kind of like fell off. There weren't any like.
There was no charismatic person behind it.
There weren't any like celebrities of the field that came out that like everybody knew, even if you didn't know anything about that particular.
Right. You
sport.
need to have some kind of celebrity face or some kind of celebrity character to make you kind of even be interested in that competition. So you see, was he going to win? You know.
Yeah.
But by the time the 90s rolled around, it was kind of like nobody really gave a shit
Well,
about
it's just kind of like any sport. You really kind of need at least one person who's like celebrity status that everybody knows who it is.
Yeah.
You know, the same as you had like Michael Jordan or somebody like that, where everybody, even if you don't give a shit about that sport, everybody knows who the fuck that is. And I feel like after Schwarzenegger, after Lou Ferrigno, stuff like that, I feel like it kind of fell off, and nobody who wasn't into that, like super into that particular sport.
Yeah,
like,
in the
knew.
2000s to 2010s, it was just like off the radar, and I think that had a lot to do with the war.
Yeah.
Because, you know what I mean? You had 9/11 happen, then the war happened, and everybody was fucking really paying attention to what was going on with the war on terror. They weren't really, you know, giving it a shit what was happening with bodybuilders at that time.
That's what I mean. I'm sure
And
you still had
entertainment
like,
was
there's
kind of
still
the-
like the fucking, you know, hardcore people that are into it.
But not civilians.
But it's
regular
not
people.
like a widespread.
No.
And even it's even pretty niche as far as like other sports and stuff go.
And there wasn't social media or anything online during that time to look at. So you were dependent on Hollywood and television and shit. So for the average person, I think that was kind of just like a dark period, you know. But I think really the future of that scene is all going to be social media driven. I think it's giving it new life, actually.
Yeah.
I think. Now I think maybe new things will appear, but you still have that same kind of guy.
Yeah.
Now the women are into it.
Yeah, that's a very growing thing too. And honestly, the interesting thing about what we were just talking about the men's physique category that started in 2013, they said they actually started out kind of slow, but now it's kind of like the most popular category. That's the one you were talking about before, where they have the board shorts.
Yeah, big old shorts.
They don't have the little little swim trunks or anything. Yeah. So that's kind of like become the most popular category. So they're seeing that as kind of a trend more back toward the roots of the competition.
It's
where
closer to
they're going back to like actually looking good and like looking not necessarily natural, but like looking more aesthetically pleasing rather than just looking like a big.
It's close to classic physique.
Right.
Classic physique, they were a little more top heavy than that, but it's close to it.
Because men's physique and classic physique are two different classes.
Yeah.
I'm not entirely sure. I think classic physique is kind of like in the middle. Like the men's physique are like physique, smaller.
The archetype of classic physique would be Arnold.
Yeah.
Pretty big, but not huge thighs, not a mass monster. You're looking for a 6-pack or a 4-pack, something like that. You know what I mean? You have to be able to do a vacuum pose. You look good front double bicep. You know. It's just that was your 70s classic. For the guys from the 70s, that's the way they looked.
Yeah.
Men's fitness is thinner than that.
Yeah,
it's more about being cut.
I mean, okay, so the classes they have men's physique, that's the smallest bodybuilders, and they have the board shorts. And then you got classic physique,
which is kind of like the
who
70s.
Are in the middle, and they kind of have boxer shorts on. And then you got your bodybuilder, like the main Mr. Olympia bodybuilder.
Yeah, I think they call it like open class. I think
or something like that.
Yeah,
and those are like the biggest ones. So there's like a three.
Real massive.
Yeah, the classic physique didn't start till 2016. So that's only been going a couple of years. But like I said, it really does seem like it's trending more toward where they started at, where they're trying to get it to look more like back in the 70s, like I said, or more like a classical physique rather than just these big.
Pretty much every important channel that I watch, they're all talking about we got to get back to the classic physique, and they're talking.
And that's what they were talking about in that documentary
it was in the 70s. Yeah,
that's what they were talking about on that too.
And I think that's the best look.
Yeah, because like I said, and it wasn't just like, dumbasses like me that don't know anything about the shit, saying that they thought, these big roided out dudes were like, it was just gross looking or like freakish looking. A lot of people that were in the sport
were saying
the same thing. They were just like, this is just getting out of hand, and it's like it doesn't even look good anymore.
They were getting something called bubble gut, too. Some people call it Columboism, because it was named after fucking Dave Palumbo, who had it. And their fucking bellies would be like a total round bubble on a fucking huge fucking dude. He's totally ripped. And the bubbles even got like a 6-pack or an 8-pack or 4-pack, but it's still a bubble, and it looks like a fucking half a basketball, and no one really knew why.
Yeah.
All right. Whether there was all these theories of why they were doing that. That it must have been some kind of a drug they were taking or a side effect from like very extreme levels of some kind of steroid. One theory that I heard. Okay.
Oh, this should be good.
Yeah. This guy was on fucking Dave Palumbo's show. Palumbo's was named. He had it. They named it Palumboism.
He's
He
like,
said this shit to the wrong. Yeah, he
or-
was. So he had a guest on who was talking about bubble gut. He didn't call it Palumboism, but he called it fucking bubble gut.
But he's like, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, you know what I'm
That
talking
thing
about.
that
And he
you
goes,
have.
I have a theory what that was. And Dave is listening, right? And he goes, what do you think it was? And he goes, these hormones, these steroids that guys were taking from that time, they were coming from China, and it was actually it was being extracted from rats, rat hormones. And he goes, and if you look at a rat, they got a fucking bubble gut on them. You know what I mean? They've always got these, so they're becoming more rat-like. And fucking Palumbo goes, no, I don't think that's what it is. No, I don't think.
I am
It
not
was the
turning
funny-
into a rat.
He goes,
Shut
and he
up.
goes, that made me fucking laugh.
I thought of all the animals you're gonna pick, it's like that have like a beer gut. Rat is not the first one I would think of.
Says if you look at a rat, it's got a fucking round gut, and if you take it, then it's kind of looking like that, like the gut of a rat. So you're kind of becoming kind of rat-like, because that's where it was coming from. That's and I don't remember exactly where he said it was coming from. Something from some kind of gland that came out of a rat. They were making. Okay. So you're becoming kind of rat-like, and fucking Dave is like, no, I disagree. I disagree.
I do not have
disagree.
a rat gut.
Yeah, I disagree.
Shut
Well, he thought it was something else. I think it might have been a swelling of internal organs. Maybe made that fucking.
Yikes! Wouldn't that be scary?
Yeah, then maybe something like that.
Or maybe
like the
he's-
liver's getting a little bit swollen because they were
Maybe
taking.
he's pregnant with a demon child.
They were taking a lot more steroids than guys took back in the 70s during classic physique. So
Yeah.
once you start pushing those boundaries, it was a kind of unknown. You would think that maybe growth hormones and steroids would try to grow you out of what your normal fucking shape should be.
Well, that's
'Cause they
what I
were taking
mean.
all
You
kinds
don't
of
know
stuff.
like where shit's gonna start growing.
Yeah, and they were taking a whole
after a certain point.
and they were taking a whole stack of shit all at the same time.
You could start growing a fucking thing out of your
and-
head. You
yeah,
could
and it
start
was
growing all
all-
kind of shit. You don't know.
And the stack that they were taking was like secret. They didn't want to tell their competition of what it was they were taking.
Right.
So there's no telling. If you were taking 12 different things and all of them kind of bad, you wouldn't be able to tell what you wouldn't know what caused that.
That could be a million
Could be a
different
million
things.
different things or interactions between things.
Yep.
So, but it did happen to some of those guys in that era. Get this little bubble gut, and you can just Google it right there. They'll talk about it on YouTube.
I'm not gonna
bubble
Google-
gut or
I'm not gonna Google
Palumboism.
that.
Palumboism.
I don't want to see a bunch of dudes' little bellies.
Palumbo. Yeah, and they're fucking ripped. It's like a round bubble gut and it's ripped. You can see the fucking 6-pack in it.
They
Or
should
the
be funny
8-pack or
and
the
just like
4-pack.
wear maternity clothing. Just own it. You know what I'm saying?
And the dude would be just fucking ripped everywhere, fucking muscles everywhere, but
It used to be like
like a basketball coming out.
he's due next month.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there is also, like I said, it's they don't talk too much about female bodybuilding because they're just girls and everything. But they did actually have a Ms. Olympia that started back in 1980.
Yeah.
And they also did a pump. I love this. Okay, so in 1985, they did Pumping Iron 2, The Women.
Yeah.
That's what it was called.
A lot of those female bodybuilders. Yeah, a lot of those female bodybuilders didn't turn out well. They ended up with beards and mustaches and shit. You start taking you take enough testosterone and enough steroids, you will turn into a man.
Yeah, no thank you.
And they found them later on, and they're like little men.
No
Fucking.
thank
And they
you.
stopped taking. They get all shrunken and shit. And then they had one that they saw a photograph of her. She used to be huge. She's shrunken, looked like a little skinny old man with a fucking mustache and a beard, wearing men's clothing.
Because she just figured, well, fuck
She
it.
became a man.
Might as well.
I guess she just became a man. But they're not really Female bodybuilders aren't doing it like they used to do it back in those days.
Yeah, I feel like they
It's-
kind of tried to do it for a while, and then they
the-
were like, yeah, no.
The idea is to look more feminine now.
Yeah.
And that's the Instagram model. Big booty, boobs, maybe some upper body strength. And I think they're doing a lot better. I think, you know what I mean? A woman's really just not built. Just
Well,
in
and I
any
feel
way
like a lot of the
to
female
look like a fucking bodybuilder male. They're not supposed to.
Yeah, and I feel like a lot of the female bodybuilding competitions, I don't know about the Ms. Olympia contest, but they have more of like an athletic component to them. Like they do
Yeah.
gymnastics and shit like that
Yeah.
too. It's not just posing. So I do feel like, yeah, that is like like I said, I'm not judging if somebody wants to do that shit to their body, but it's
No, they got kind of a new style of just gym rat girls. She's just got big legs, big boobs, dressed up like Chun-Li or something, doing karate kicks and fucking like Bakar Nakiva or whatever her name is, with the fucking long tongue and the black eyes and the big old fucking thighs and shit. It looks good,
Yeah.
She talks, it sounds like a man's voice. But she's still sexy though, you know what I mean? She's still sexy. She looks like a woman.
yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just, you fuck around with a lot of those fucking performance-enhancing drugs and a lot of testosterone. You do too much of it, you're just going to be a dude.
Yeah.
That's gender has a lot to do with fucking biochemistry, and that's what you're fucking with, So there's limits, you know what I mean? So I kind of like the direction a lot of the Instagram fitness model girls are going now. They're trying to, instead of looking masculine, they're trying to look hyper feminine.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like a superhero female type is what they're trying to look for.
Yeah,
So
I can see how that would be.
It
like,
looks a lot better.
Yeah. Because I wouldn't want to look like a dude.
Yeah, and if you go back to the fucking 70s, you go back to the 90s and the 80s, and mostly the 90s, the bodybuilders, female bodybuilders of the 90s, they didn't look good. I didn't think.
Yeah, it was a little strange looking. But I feel like it had like less of, whereas it seemed like it took like 20 or 30 years for like the dudes just to get bigger and bigger and bigger before they finally were like, yeah, this doesn't look so good. Where I feel like the women were kind of like, they got bigger and they're like, oh, yeah, fuck this. It was it didn't really take
like a
as
failed
long.
Experience.
Yeah, they were just
experiment.
like did it for like a couple of years and then they're like, no.
No, it doesn't look that good. But they got ways to do it now. They still look like women.
Yeah.
It
can be done. It's just, like I said, I would not be.
It's gonna be a lot of lower body work and stuff.
Yeah, I would not be super into like taking testosterone or anything like that. So
They got a Chinese girl that dresses up like Chun-Li for some of her photographs, like that girl from the video game, and has thighs just like that. I don't know how much of it is Photoshop though, because they some of those photos are very deceptive. I'm looking at it and I go, that looks like Photoshop.
Yeah.
Like, that waist can't be that skinny. So there's just certain things. Because I can draw. I'm a pretty good artist too. Haven't drawn in a long time. There's certain proportions that are impossible. If you go from that angle, if it's that wide, then if you turn it around, then that means that that waist is this big around.
I've seen some really, really bad Photoshops of like some chicks that don't know how to. Because I'm a graphic designer, have been for 20-something years.
Right.
So I've been using Photoshop for 2 decades, and I can usually tell when something has been Photoshopped.
Right.
But I've seen some shitty Photoshop. I've seen some good Photoshop too, but you can still tell when it's fake.
Yeah.
So do you want to talk about bulking and cutting or anything like that? Or do you want to talk about, because remember, I think it was on last week's show or on one of the sidetracks show, you said you left a cliffhanger and you said you were going to talk about whether you were natural or not.
Oh, no. Actually, technically, I was natural for my whole life up until about a month ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, I took some SARMs.
Yeah.
Yeah, but, some people would say, well, then you're not natural. I'm enhanced. And it's just taken.
They're not steroids.
No.
They're like, yeah.
No, it's not. Almost kind of like a hologram of a steroid. A lot of people laugh at them.
Yeah.
Guys that take roids laugh at fucking SARMs. Because if they took SARM, it wouldn't do anything to them. It just wouldn't do anything to them. They're already fucking big. But if you've never taken any steroids, you can take SARMs and get some kind of speeds up your healing at my age. And if you're young, I'm not sure. So I look at the photographs of young guys that have taken SARMs and working out. And the results didn't look too impressive to me.
Yeah.
But me at 50, taking Ostarine, I've noticed that I heal up a lot faster.
Yeah, you did say
heal
that,
up a lot
yeah.
faster. And let's just leave it at that.
Yeah.
All right? I don't think what's a good way to put it? I don't think they're for everybody. But I think for older people, stuff like Ostarine is going to be advantageous.
Yeah.
I heal up faster on it. But the thing with all those SARMs and what makes them different from steroids is that with a steroid, you can actually exceed your genetic potential. You can put on another 20 pounds that you could never get. All right? Now, a SARM won't do that. A SARM will help you get closer to your genetic potential, but you'll never break it.
Right.
You know what I'm talking about?
So it's kind of like a safer alternative or like a more...
Yeah, well, it depends on which one. There's a bunch of different ones, and it depends on who you ask. People who sell steroids, and there are doctors that sell steroids, will say, no, it's the same risks as the steroids. Might as well buy mine. You know what I mean? We know those work. You know what I mean? So, it's difficult to say. You know what I mean? They're not an illegal drug. They're actually not really approved for human use. They're considered to be a research chemical.
Well, yeah, they're under human trials. Aren't
Yeah,
they?
they're in human trial. Ostarine is the one that's the closest to being approved. That's the one I'm taking. And, I just take a standard dose. I don't fucking go crazy with it or anything. It's just, I notice instead of healing up in 5 days, I'll heal up in 2. So that's...
Yeah, because,
that's worth it.
I mean, you were doing, like, you lift, like, really heavy weights, but you were, like, leaving, like, several days in between, like 4 or 5 days in between.
Taking too long to heal up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because sometimes it would be like,
Yeah.
it would tear
Ostarine
up
will
your
help a little
muscles.
bit.
Yeah, and then it would be like...
Now, if I was on steroids, fucking, at my age, I'm in good health. I could do a cycle. In 18 months, I could fucking make like 10 years of progress.
Yeah.
But the thing is that you come off of those and I don't know, that's a lot of muscle you now have to maintain. I don't know. It's just it's a little early in my journey. You know what I mean? I don't think I'm ready for it. Let's just see how it goes.
Yeah.
I don't want to be that big. I just want to be fucking healthy.
Yeah,
You
you're
know?
not really doing it for competition
No.
purposes or because you want to
No.
be like a gigantic monster. You
No.
just want to like be in good shape.
Be in good shape and maintain strength and fucking
Yeah.
maintain my resistance to disease. Help kind of soften the blow of aging. After 50, that 50 to 60 sometimes is a steep decline for a lot of guys.
Yeah.
Now, I've done the research. If you're lifting, all right, that fucking decline is not as pronounced.
Yeah.
There are guys, like Chet Yorton, who claims to be natural, which I think he might be mostly natural. Maybe he had some help later on in years. He's an old guy, man. He's got to be 70-something years old, and he looked good. Looks real good. He's lifted his whole life.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Jack LaLanne looked pretty good for his whole life. I don't know if he was natural. You see, sometimes you might see a guy, he looks really fit, a guy like Jack LaLanne. I can tell you right now, he wasn't a full-on fucking roid
Yeah.
monster, you know what I mean? But he might have done small doses of it. So, is that natural? Technically, no. But that's enhanced.
Yeah.
But could he have done that fucking without it? Maybe. Maybe not. But it would have been a lot harder probably without it.
I don't remember him being a gigantic dude.
No, but he was well proportioned and cut, and he was strong his whole life. Even when he was old, he was strong.
He lived into his 90s, didn't he?
Yeah.
Because I remember, I think he was like selling that fucking juicer on, doing fucking infomercials.
He lived old.
on
He lived a
QVC
long,
and
long
shit.
time.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he was in his 90s.
But I got a feeling he wasn't 100% natural. I had got a feeling that he was taking therapeutic cycles of steroids, probably like real light cycles of it. And probably because of, society at that time, he probably didn't say anything about it.
Yeah.
But shit, that's life extension. He lived a long time.
Yeah.
And was healthy the whole throughout his
Pretty
whole
much,
life.
yeah, because even when he was like a really old dude,
He's an
I
old man.
remember
He's
seeing
fucking
him all the
looking.
time.
He's in good shape and shit.
Yeah.
So, how is that bad?
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's like really...
How's that bad?
Yeah.
You got to be reasonable. He lived to be fucking 90-something years old. Mm-hmm. And was fucking strong the whole way through that. How was that bad? How did that hurt him?
Yeah. It didn't. Not in any
No.
stretch of the imagination. Yeah,
No.
he was still, like, real active, too,
Yeah.
like, into his 90s.
From what I remember.
And he still had all his faculties. And,
When I was a little kid, he was old.
yeah.
And he looked great.
Yeah.
He was like at that time, fucking, back in the 70s, one of the fucking strongest, best looking guys on television, and he was already an old man.
Yeah.
Was he 100% natural? Probably not. Probably not. Looking back on it, no, probably not. But
Yeah.
so, he was onto something there.
I guess so. And I don't think it was the fucking juice either.
No, wasn't that juice? not the juice out
Not
that came
that
out of it.
juice.
It might have been another juice. But like I said, there's a difference between use and abuse.
Right.
I kind of suspect that there are guys like that will therapeutically use to kind of fucking help extend.
Well, that's kind
it's
of
like
the
that spice. It will extend life. You're like, you heard this.
But that's the thing. I mean, and like I said, that's kind of the thing about anything is that, anything is bad if you take too much
A lot of it. Right.
Shit, even if you drink too much water, it will kill you.
If you're Ronnie Coleman and you're fucking just down in that shit, yeah, you're going to get fucked up. But who's to say you're not Jack LaLanne and you're just taking little bangs here and there, you know what I mean? To help fucking rebuild some shit and to fucking, keep yourself going. And it's kind of like the elixir vitae from fucking, what was that fucking, the fiendish plot of Dr. Fu Manchu? Remember the fiendish
Ooh,
plot?
that was random.
Remember the fiendish plot of
I
Dr.
do.
Fu Manchu? He's trying to get that fucking elixir of vitae. Didn't you have to he got it out of women, didn't he? He extracted that energy.
Pituitary glands.
He had
or some shit
extracted
like
it
that?
out of
I don't
fucking
know.
people, and he got young.
Man, that was like that fucking movie, The Leech Woman. That was on
Yeah.
Mystery Science Theater too. She had to get, I think it was the pituitary gland, wasn't it? She had that ring and she had to get it. It had to be men though, and she would get like the juice out of their pituitary gland and she would drink it, and then that kept her young. Except then at the end, spoiler alert, she gets it out of a woman because she started getting desperate because it didn't last. She would stay young and then like a little while later she started getting like super old again, like really quickly. So then she had to like kill a woman because a woman was just like right there and she was available. So she's like, plugged her. And then when she took the woman's pituitary juice, then it made her age like super quickly. And then she died.
Yeah.
So, So was that a thing? Like back, because when they figured out like what pituitary glands were, and then because suddenly it seems like there were all these movies where that was a plot point.
Yeah, well, that's when they figured out what steroids and testosterone was.
Yeah.
Fucking super soldier serum and fucking, and
Like,
and
take
Captain
all this
America,
fucking shit out of
coming
people's
out.
glands.
Roids.
And it'll keep you young for.
That's what they're talking about. See, I'm very skeptical of the medical industry. Fucking. I worked for Dr. Matt, and my friend Steve. Fucking, he was fucking going for his doctorate. He's a biochemist. That medicine is about making profits. It's these are companies. They want to sell expensive treatments. The last thing they want to do is cure diabetes. All right. Because they make a shit ton of money off of treating diabetes, and that's just the way it is. They're not in, trying to cure diseases. All right, and if you're poor, the last thing they want you to do is to live longer. All right.
Well, yeah, obviously.
Okay, that's the idea. Rich people, they live a long time. You notice that?
Yeah, I wonder
Rich-
what that could be.
Yeah, they're fucking. Wonder what they're doing now.
Not like my ass that hasn't had
Yeah.
any health insurance for years.
Yeah.
My health insurance plan is don't get sick, and if you do, just ignore it until it goes away.
They had all kinds of weird.
Sad but true.
They evidently had these weird companies that would pop up to where they would fucking take rich people and fucking fly to your house and land their chopper at your chopper pad, and you could sit up there and they fucking transfuse you with blood from teenagers with all that damn fucking hormones in it and shit and keep you going.
They'd bring you the teenager.
That's like some
blood.
shit. That's like some shit that a fucking vampire does.
That's some Countess Bathory shit.
Countess Bathory and shit. And,
Where are they getting this teenager blood from?
Yeah, when these doctors go to med school and everything, a lot of them, you're talking about kind of beta-ish kind of guys, I mean, they're not into making fucking big dudes that'll beat them up in high school or anything. They're not like that, you know what I mean? they're just trying to cure diseases and make money for these medical fucking companies. They're not into making things that make people stronger or faster or live longer. That's not in there. They're not into that. All right. So some of this stuff, I theoretically in my mind, it's not just me. Other guys are thinking this, that there's stuff out there that if you used it in therapeutic doses might extend life.
Yeah, we're not talking about like one that'll like make you live forever or anything,
No.
but just like taking little bits of it will probably like improve, or at least improve your quality
of your life.
Yeah.
But who knows? You look at Jack LaLanne. Let's say he was using therapeutic doses of fucking, gear. What would happen if he didn't do that? Would he have died at 70 instead of 90?
Yeah.
And would he have gotten real weak at around 60-something and been frail at 60? See, there is an impact. They know that shit works. They know it works.
Yeah.
You can demonstrate that it works. But they don't talk about how it works on old people, do they?
Yeah, not really.
And then the guys that were abusing it early on in life, a lot of them never made it to be old people.
Yeah.
What happens if they just were fit and healthy?
Yeah. It's
up
kind
until
of, yeah.
up until about 50, all right? And then they started taking it therapeutically at 50 because they were healthy, all right? They weren't already damaged by steroid abuse. But then therapeutic doses of steroids, could you run that out to 90 years old? Would it extend your life? It might. I think it might.
Well, and I feel like if you're going to do it, that seems like the way to do it. Because it seems like the people that have the most trouble are the ones that started young.
And took high doses.
Of, like, for competitions and stuff like that. Now, some of those people, like, maintained and, like, still stayed in good shape. But it does seem like a lot of them had a lot of health problems later on.
Yeah.
But if you didn't take anything until you were already, like, 50 or 55, and then you started taking it, and you were already in decent shape, like you'd worked out and shit like that prior to that, but hadn't taken anything, but then you started taking stuff in your 50s, then that would probably be the way to go, I would think.
That's what I'm thinking.
Only
thing is it's expensive. But here in Florida, it's easy to get a prescription for it. And you see TRT, testosterone replacement therapy, they say it works wonders after 50.
Yeah.
Which is similar to a steroid. But you can get all that shit at once. But the problem with it is that I heard that here in this state, they do it in a very cookie-cutter fashion. They don't even do blood work to try to tailor a dosage to you.
Right.
They just give you a standard dose. And what I'm thinking is, what if you took half of a standard dose? See? Instead of a standard doses of it. It might be even better for what we're talking about. This is all theory.
Yeah, like I said, if all you're trying to do is
extend life
and make your life better.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. So you don't like decline.
Yeah, what would happen if you took a quarter of a standard dose? Just
Well, it's probably better than nothing, right?
My thinking is that you should do as little as you should possibly do.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you think?
Yeah, that's what
I would think as little as possible.
Yeah. Just enough, well, like
enough
I said.
to have an effect.
Yeah, but because if you overdo it, then that's more risk that
it might
shit's
counteract
gonna go wrong.
Right, it might counteract it.
I mean, I've always been a big, not out of any kind of like moral obligation or anything, but I've just always tried not to take anything.
Yeah.
Like just in general. I'll take aspirin, but that's about it.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't really like to take anything. And I've just been lucky that I've never gotten really sick enough that I had to take anything. I had to take antibiotics a few times for various things, but that's pretty much it, I think. Had to take painkillers a few times for surgery and whatnot. But even then, I didn't even take that much of it. So I'm real reluctant to take anything unless I'm really, 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 really hating life.
Doctor already prescribed me steroids after that motorcycle accident.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a long time ago. Just to get the swelling down.
Yeah, it's good for that.
Yeah, but that was it. Didn't gain any muscle off of it. Wasn't working out. Laying around.
Well, yeah, because you were laying around because you were all busted up.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, you done talking about?
I'm done, man.
Bodybuilders, you done?
Yeah, I think we pretty much covered it.
We did.
We pretty much covered it. I mean, there's a couple of recommendations if you want to know more about it. and the history of bodybuilding and the individual men that did the shit is real interesting. Go check out Nick's Strength and Power. That's the name of that channel. It's on YouTube. He's got a whole playlist of like the history of bodybuilding and the men by name of everything that they did. He gives their stats and what they were like and everything. That was a real interesting one. Another one is you could go check out Mr. Yorkie Fitness Lover. I think, or Mr. Yorkie Fitness Lover. That's Leroy Colbert. You can find him. And Leroy's an old guy. He's an old black guy. And he could tell you all these stories going back in the 50s. He's fucking wonderful. He talked your fucking ear off. He just died a couple years back. He fell and hit his head in his shop. He had a bad foot. And he woke up in the hospital a few times and said, yeah, I'll be all right, all right. But then he never came back.
That sucks.
Yeah, poor Leroy. But he lived a long life, though. Let me think. Who else is... if you want coaching, I would recommend Greg Doucette. And he's on YouTube, too. He guy's hilarious. He sounds like Gilbert Godfrey. And he'll take all your Instagram models and all your fucking celebrities, and he'll, natty or not natural or unnatural, and he'll fucking tell you, no, this guy's fucking on this and that, and I know this, because he can figure it out just by looking at pictures. He can tell you who's on gear and who isn't. It's funny. All the shows are funny. But yeah, you can check out Greg Doucette. He's pretty good. And let me see. That's about it.
Yeah.
That's about it. Yeah.
All right. This show ended up longer than I thought it would. It's like 2 hours and 40 minutes or something like that. I think it's going to be. Got to edit it together, and we'll see how long it is.
Okay.
But anyway, yeah. I hope you guys. I know this is like a little bit out of our usual wheelhouse, but this is something Tom's been wanting to do, and I actually found it really interesting when I started reading about it.
Yeah, it's a good show.
Yeah, I thought it was entertaining. So I hope you guys have enjoyed it. This was episode 196. Remember, if you like the show, like, share, subscribe on all your social media. If you'd like to financially support the show, it would be much appreciated. You can go to our Patreon page, patreon.com/13o'clockpodcast, or you can go to our blog, 13o'clockpodcast.wordpress.com, and there's a button in the sidebar that goes to a PayPal account if you'd like to give a one-time donation. We're also, like I said, eventually going to do the YouTube membership thing. We just haven't got around to putting it up yet. But we'll get to that, I promise. And also, I wanted to give a shout out to when we were doing the break between the show, we got a PayPal donation from Jason. Another one, he always sends us very large, generous PayPal donations every now and then, and we still have to get him a shirt. We are going to do shirts, I swear to God. We just haven't been out to the store to get any to print on.
It's just starting to get where it's going back to normal. We'll be out there in the next couple of days.
Yeah, so the next, probably in the next week, we're going to go out and buy supplies again for the next round of shirts, and we have to get a new design going and shit like that. So we'll get everybody taken care of in the next couple of weeks. So that will do it for episode 196. We will see you next time. Bye.